If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual SOR Fan Party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldine Orozco, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the SOR Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
I'm not a good pretender, I never could live a lie. I said too much, and let it get the best of me, until it took the rest of me. I thought it was worth the fight, to fight for what's right, to right all the wrongs, to sing in our songs, to know we belong. No one understands, they don't have the desire, got their hands in the fire, and I do it again. We give it all we can, all we have is desire, got their hands in the fire, we burn ourselves, they never say, never say, never say, never again. I never say, never say, never say, never again. I learned more from one enemy than from 1,000 friends. That heaven takes care of the fools and scoundrels in the end. You learn more from one lie than from 1,000 truths. It's all-
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight we'll be broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. While you're there, please don't forget to hit that subscription button. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. Welcome back to Saturday After Hours. We are back in the building, guys. We got it going on tonight. We got it going on this weekend. A week before, we'll be down in Reno doing our thing, so can't wait for that. I know everyone is going, and for the ones who can't go, make sure you're at the live show so we can go ahead and make sure you're included in all the festivities, anything that we do. We might try to orchestrate a couple live streams from Reno, maybe Saturday, Sunday. Don't know for sure, though. We will have the archive shows running Saturday, Sunday night. So definitely make sure you're there for that. The live chat will be open, but we may try to arrange some like impromptu stuff during the fan party, because we want everyone to feel like you are there, living vicariously through the ones that were able to make it. So it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. So let's go ahead and see who has the medal positions here today. So looking in the chat shows that we have let's see. Yeah, to Mothman with the gold, Woo I Am with the silver, and then Race Fan with the bronze. So we do have that. Appreciate Race Fan keeping us on top of our stuff here as we go ahead and jump into the chat. So I want to make sure that we get everybody in here. I just want to know how you guys are doing. Like, how has your week been? How has everything been going? Are you feeling great about the things that happen, right? We're supposed to manifest positive energy out there. So I'm hoping everybody had a fantastic week. But going back here, anyways, we got some Mothman saying Woo Tribe with the horn emojis, alien head, spaceship emojis. Thank you for coming on in. We got Woo I Am. You the man, Mr. Rob G. Thanks for holding space for truth and light. More to come on that. More to come on that, Woo I Am. Thank you for coming on in. And then Race Fan, obviously, good evening, Rob. Good evening, Race Fan. Right back to you. Jumping in, we got Eternity Eternal. Thank you for coming on in with the silly face emoji. Appreciate you showing up tonight. We got Roger Murray's letting us know that it is National Star Wars Day. So may the force be with you tonight. May the 4th, right? May the 4th be with you tonight or today on this holiday. So thanks for keeping us laced up, Roger Murray. Always dropping the knowledge bombs. We love it. Thanks for coming in as well. James Horn saying hi. Hi, James Horn. Thanks for showing up tonight at the after hours. We appreciate you. Who else do we got in here? We got, moving down the list, Silent Listen saying may the 4th be with you. Right back to you, Silent Listen. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We got Lars Jansen saying good morning all with the horns and the heart emoji. We love it. Thanks for coming in, Lars Jansen, from somewhere else in the world, right? Let's see, getting down the list here. Okay, we got Roger. Okay, there we go. Aloha, Dave. Saludos a todos de Mexico. Greetings to everyone from Mexico. Thanks for keeping us bilingual. Aloha, Dave. We do appreciate you. Thanks for coming on in as well. Getting down the list here. Gizmo saying, hellos, everyone. Don't look up unless you're ready. Yeah, because they are up there. They're up there all the time. That's a fact. Miss Donna Carter saying, hi, everyone. Thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you. Jumping in here, what else do we have? Carl Bittner in here saying, hey there, Gizmo. Hey, Carl Bittner, thanks for coming on in tonight. We do appreciate you. Appreciate you showing on up to the after hours. We really do. And we're going to have an awesome show tonight and tomorrow as well. The weekend is going to be lit, guys. So going down the list, what are we looking at here? Okay, Little Cam 5-1 from Twitch. St. Louis Battlehawks win their 5th consecutive game. Okay, that must be a sport that I'm not following, Little Cam. Does it sound like hockey? Yeah, okay. John P. Adventures represent my brother Wild Trees Biologist. Yes, Wild Trees Biologist is in the house tonight. It says big hugs, A-Rob G. Cheers. Have a great one. Same to you, John P. Adventures. We do appreciate you coming on in tonight. And Paul Holland saying hi, Rob. Hi, Paul Holland. Thanks for showing up tonight. We appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio and glad you could come in tonight. Right, getting down the list. All right, 12 Pearls saying hi, y'all. 12 Pearls seems like a new name. If so, and I always have to do this at least once a show, want to let you know where you're at here tonight. You're at Spaced Out Radio. This is after hours. We run the show on the weekends. Saturdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Then on Sundays, we have Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. Goes right before the after hours, so 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific. Then you move right on over here to the after hours. And then Monday through Friday, we have Dave Scott, conductor of the Woo Train, running the show Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. So there is 7 days a week that something's going on over here. So definitely be glad to see you back, and would welcome you to come on in, join the family here. So thanks for coming in. And moving down the list here, we got Rezo Factor saying greets to Rezo Factor. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see here. I can't believe I would have never done that. Carl Bittner, I would have never done that. Just get my hi to you, Rob, in the chat. No, I would never do that, Carl Bittner. But what's up? Thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you. That is Carl Bittner, better known as Human Carl, not to be mistaken with Alien Carl, which is Dave's friend. All right, we are almost current here. We got Rule Riders DG. I'm down top of Chris, 232 pounds, balling. Okay. All right, we like that. Rule Riders DG. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up tonight. And I did. Apologies, Carl Bittner. Never would do that, man. Never would intentionally do that. Let's say it like that. Do appreciate you coming on in and keeping me on my game. Carl Bittner. Who else do we have in there? James Horn. Okay, yeah, let's say we're current here. So what we're going to do, as we always do about this time, we go ahead and take a look at the week that was Spaced Out Radio. Always an awesome week to look back on. I think it's no different here. So we'll go ahead and hop in the time machine and jump back and see the week that was Spaced Out Radio. So everybody kick back. We'll be back in just a minute here. Jim, these are obviously icons in this field. You're talking about John Lear, Bob Lazar, two of the top, period.
John Andrews came out with, from Testers, Bob Lazar's sports model.
Yeah. I don't know if I have an image of that.
And John was as crazy as I am when it came to Area 51 and things that go bump in the night. But I've interviewed him and talked to virtually every pilot that had crashed an SR-71 or an A-12 or a YF-12. I've interviewed all the original test pilots. I was befriended by Ben Rich, who was Kelly Johnson's he was his number one man. He was number two position, but number one man. And you can't see it because there's Kelly, but the previous shot, the backdrop is Area 51 taken Christmas Day 2021. So that's within 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years old. That one right there. And there's a lot of stuff. The small little building in the center and the right-hand side, that's a scoot and hide. If they're out doing something and a satellite's going to come over, or there's a wayward airplane flying over the area, they can taxi right into that area. The hangar down by the lower left-hand side, it's about a mile from any other facility, and no one has been able to explain exactly why.
So, Jax, we're going to kick it off this first week. What do we have going on? What are we getting into?
Well, for tonight's show, I was actually thinking about this. The last couple of days, I've been having these experiences that we all have, which is when we see these, visions or like shadow things out of the corner of our eye. And we all do it. We all see it. And a lot of people kind of think like, oh, what was that? Did I see something? Was that a bug? Was that a shadow? You're kind of always trying to figure out what it was. and yet you find yourself kind of brushing it off, but these are truly things that we're seeing. We're not hallucinating. It's not something that we're imagining. We really do see these things. And what's happening is you're actually getting like a sneak little peek of like a second of maybe, someone coming in to say hello. Like you and I've actually talked about this before about shadow figures. And it's very similar to that where, you'll see it and then it's like, well, what did I just see? And it always kind of makes you stand there for a second and look or wonder, what's going on? What was that? Because sometimes you'll actually hear a little noise with it as well. So, it's very common for people. And everybody, like I said, everybody does this. So what's happening is you're actually interacting with the other side. And it's just like a piece of them coming in to say hello. They're there, they're gone. But the thing that I wanted to talk about was the frequencies, the vibrations of the living and the dead, because they share energy, we share energy, and there's energy all around us. So as people, when you're very happy and easygoing, you have a very high vibration, and if you're someone who's sad or lonely or depressed or have a lot of anxiety, you have a very low vibration. And it depends on like who you are as a person, what you're giving off, of what you're also attracting. So that has a lot to do with what it is that we're seeing.
The audience enjoys every time we sit here and read those. What are some of the ones that, what would be one if you had to pick one of the most compelling ones that kind of gives you nightmares, gives you the shivers when you think about it?
Well, nothing bothers me much anymore, to be honest with you. But this whole Chicago Mothman winged humanoid investigation from the very beginning has been quite unique, because you're talking about a cryptid flap or a series of episodes that are happening for the most part in an urban area, suburban area, which is just really out of the norm for cryptid activity. And when these sightings started to become known in 2011, it was 3 sightings early on. Then it kind of waned off. We weren't hearing much of anything. But then 2017 came in. Then it just went crazy. And we were lucky enough to be able to start getting contact with people, letting them know that we were doing this investigation. But of course, we were very, very cognizant of people that would come out just to get some notoriety. And, we made it a point to follow up with our investigators. One would get the report, then another one would follow up with it, and we'd compare notes and such. And, but it is all in all one of the best series of investigations I've ever been involved with. And involved with that. And we're far from the end of it. It continues on. When we think it's going to slow up, then it starts picking up again. And at this point right now, we just had, there was a sighting this morning, by the way, just west of Chicago. And we're looking at that. That sighting would be the 170th sighting that we've recorded that we think is legitimate.
What does it feel like to have an implant inside of you?
Well, actually, it was kind of painful when they put the implant in my toe. The first symptom was a really weird stinging pain in the toe. I looked at it, and there were 2 puncture wounds, one on each side of the bottom of the toe. And I shined an ultraviolet light on it, and the 2 puncture wounds glowed bright green. And the green disappeared within a couple of days, as I recall. But the puncture wounds actually healed within hours, very unnaturally fast. They have some kind of a healing beam or ray that heals wounds very quickly, and its effects are kind of lasting. It lasts for at least 24 hours, and Then there was the stinging pain got worse, and every time I took a step and put any weight on the toe, it made like an electric shock type pain, and then that peaked out at about day 4 after they put the implant in. And at that point, whenever I put any weight on the toe, it felt like an electric shock, like 120 volt electric shock going up my entire leg. And I think that was the nerve cells growing into the device. There's proprioceptor nerves that grow into these devices, at least most of them. And the pain tapered off after that, and it was not too bad after about a month. And but it continued on. So that's part of the reason I said yes to having Dr. Lear remove it. I felt like it was going to cause a medical problem eventually.
Was it moving in your body?
No, it wasn't a moving one. It was a pretty standard device. It was about 4 millimeters long and about 1 millimeter in diameter. The metallic portion was made of meteoric iron, and it had a surface on the metal that was like whether a pearl or bone or a biological hard part of some kind, with a lot of calcium, silicon, and phosphorus in it. And that presumably had enzymes in it that caused the formation of this gray, tough membrane that Dr. Lear had seen on a lot of other implants. And most likely also had chemical messengers to cause the nerve cells to grow into the device. There were carbon nanotube bundles that looked like the main electrical connections to the device, and the nerve cells apparently grow into this tough outer membrane. The outer membrane is electrically conductive too. It seems to form the membrane from blood plasma in the body.
There is a side to ufology that many in the public do not know exists. It involves governments, it involves cover-ups, crash retrievals, possibility of recovering non-human intelligence. We've heard the stories from people like David Grush and Lou Elizondo, and most recently Jason Sands coming out. Whether you believe in him or not, that's okay. I'm wondering, for you, when is this a darker side of ufology that we just have no clue about, that the public would just not be really understanding how big the cover-up is?
It would certainly be one of the most protected military secrets, because just as it would be if you were a country, America or UK, or other Western country, and you were retrieving some piece of high technology from, Russia or China. It's something that you'd want to keep very close to your chest. And I think once you're talking about craft, technology, maybe, biologics, as Grush calls them, which are of non-human origin from wherever or whenever they're from, then that would be even a more of a deep secret. But it's happened before. Things that we've learned about now. I mean, during the Korean War was when they really, say the Americans really got into the whole crash retrieval thing, because they had advanced jets flying around in Korea, so they wanted to make sure that they didn't get shot down. Initially get shot down by the enemy, and then if they did, they'd want to blow them up in place, or try and retrieve them, and certainly retrieve the pilots. So crash retrievals of kind of conventional aircraft isn't a new thing. It's been around for decades. But there was a famous case in the mid 1980s when the Libyans were fighting the Chadians in North Africa, and the French were supporting the Libyans. The Americans wanted to get their hands on an Mi-24 Russian, Soviet-built attack helicopter, and the Chadians actually got their hands on one, and the Americans secretly flew it out of Chad, literally took it apart and underslung it under helicopters and flew it out. So crash retrievals isn't a new thing, and we've only heard about that particular case more recently. So if you're talking about retrieving non-human craft and possibly remains of living beings that are non-human, then that would be biggest secret of all.
Is needing sleep with your bedroom door locked to get a good night's sleep a sign of being taken by aliens? I have odd memories, but I worry it's just old nightmares.
Well, we'll start with the issue of locking the door has little to nothing to do with aliens. There are so many, literally millions of people that will lock their door, close their closet doors, and close their windows, and the only reason for it is because there's too much extra noise coming out. Yeah, it may simply be that is the most likely problem. There are not that many inductions that take place. So no, I would not mark that as an indicator at all.
Could it not be, though, that
one thing you may be dealing with is past life memories.
Keith, let me ask you this in regards to that, because I sleep with my door open. And at night, my partner says that she sees things standing in the doorway to the hall. And for some reason, they can't come in, but usually a couple times a week, she will wake up in the middle of the night and have visions of these weird looking beings standing in the doorway.
Well, number one, you likely have a barrier already around your doorway. Okay. Besides that, you do have an advantage. What you're not aware of is there's a conduit there's a corridor in your house that it literally will go through. But it's literally all she's doing is seeing them pass by. The odds are they're not even seeing the fact your bedroom door is there, never mind open.
All right. That was Spaced Out Radio, the weekend review. Once again, a lot of interesting stuff happening here at Spaced Out Radio. If you miss any of those episodes, you can always hop into archives. Our archives are totally free. You can access those at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Jump in there and get a good dose of, it's been years and years and years of content every single day for years. So there's definitely a lot of stuff for you to jump in there and access. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get to moving into the show here. We have a guest tonight, goes by the name of Wild Trees, and is a field biologist who specializes in microbiology and animal behavior. So we're going to see how those things tie into the phenomena, where that expertise is being applied. I don't know a lot about microbiology, so this is going to be a time where we get to, pretty much learn. So be ready to soak up some information in case, you may not be up to speed with this, but it should be interesting. So what we'll do is go ahead and bring in our guest. And let me go ahead and switch this up here as we introduce our guest for the night. Wild Trees, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, no problem at all. Glad we could have you. Actually, I was looking into your background as a microbiologist, and it's going to be interesting to find out how you apply that. But before we jump into the meat and potatoes, I was wondering, like we do with any first-time guest, if you wouldn't mind kind of going back into what got you started, and directed this way. Have you been an experiencer? Have you seen anything weird growing up? And kind of let's start from there.
Sure. The first time I became interested in the paranormal was as a young kid at the library. There was always a section of all the libraries in America with like 5 books on the Bermuda Triangle, Bigfoot, and UFOs. Public libraries, So I saw those books and I was like, what are these books about? I was like, it's not fiction. It's not in the fiction section, but it's like, doesn't make sense with what I'm learning in my other classes. So that's the first introduction I got. Then you fast forward, and I did have some paranormal encounters. I'll talk about them later or after this. And then I was in graduate school getting a master's in biology, and I had all this experience in science, and I got really sick, and I saw Stephen Greer's Unacknowledged on Netflix because I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie, I was like, oh my God, like it restarted my interest in the paranormal. And now I wasn't a kid. I had all this experience in like critical thinking and facts and research. And I dug back into that. And so that was probably that was around 2016. So for like 6 years ago, I guess. And so since then, I've just been interviewing people about the paranormal, Bigfoot experiencers, Preston Dennett, Dolly.
Yep. Those are my buddies. Let's see, do you freeze up there?
Okay, I guess might be
Uh,
experiencing.
uh, was the last thing you
Okay, right now
said?
you're in it. You're in and out right now. If you can hear me, you're in and out on your audio. Okay, so what you may have to do, I don't know if you can hear me, Wild Trees, is back out and then come back in. And we'll wait for him to show up here, back in the back. And I can hear you, Wild Trees, so let me know when you're ready.
Okay, so I'm going to get out of this page and go back into it. So I'm going to close the page and I'll open a new one right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to just exit out. So I'll see you in a second.
Yep. Yeah, you did. Okay. Aloha Dave said, right, we had the same problem last night. I'll tell you what. I mean, it's truthfully, it's a miracle we're able to even get this done wirelessly. Well, with internet being what it is. So let's try this again here. All right.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying I'm in the country, so the Wi-Fi is really iffy. But if I just do audio, I think it'll be more stable, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool, man. So what was the last thing you remember me saying, so I can catch up?
You were going into how you've interviewed President Dolly Saffron, who are good friends of the show as well.
Okay, so yeah, so my show, and then I have a really good witness from Minnesota, and I mean, he's got his own page, but not a lot of people have interviewed him. He's got crazy Bigfoot stories. He lives with him, he interacts with him, so he's a really good guest I've had as well. So yeah, so I've continued to do research in biology, but I've continued to interview people and come up with thought experiments and possible experiments I could do in the paranormal, because I think the paranormal is legitimate. I think basically the paranormal represents the outer edge of our understanding of the universe. Like, we're barely peeking at it, because as a human, we're never going to fully understand everything. And so I think the very edge of what we understand is probably represented by the paranormal. And unfortunately, a lot of scientists, honestly, they're cowards and they don't want to even tackle the subject. That's kind of good for me, because there's not a lot of competition. Like, if I were to make a scientific breakthrough in the paranormal, there's not a lot of scientists studying it. Well, okay, I take that back. Publicly, there's not a lot of scientists studying the paranormal. I do think governments and private labs are actually studying the paranormal. They just keep everything secret, because that information is very valuable. Plus, when you do research, it's very expensive. It could be millions of dollars, dozens of years. So it's a big investment. So you don't want to just like spill the beans about all the amazing paranormal research you've done.
Right.
But if you want to go to my experiences, I think one time, I guess my most vivid experience, and I've talked about it before, but I was at a research station. So I'm a field researcher. I study microbiology. The type of microbiology I study are like insects, water beetles that live in water, in ponds, rivers. I also study this animal called a tardigrade, a microscopic animal, also known as a water bear. Very interesting animal. And these animals, both of these animals, they live all over the world. So I've done field research in Alaska, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Texas, Arkansas, and I don't know if I said Colorado, but all over the Colorado Rocky Mountains, because these animals live everywhere. And if I went to Antarctica, I could find water bears. If I went to India, I could find these beetles. I'm just saying, I picked those subjects because it allows me to travel the world if I want to and still work. But yeah, so I was studying those insects and those bears, and I was at a research station by myself in East Texas. Okay, so the federal government owns this house that researchers can stay at, and it's located next to a large biological preserve. It's actually the nation's first biological preserve. America's first biological preserve is called the Texas Big Thicket. It's in East Texas. It's a paranormal hotspot. I mean, there's crazy stuff. Landed UFO, a lot of Bigfoot. If you look at Bigfoot reports, it's just this is a hotspot for Bigfoot. And I was doing research there, like on insects. I wasn't really studying the paranormal at the time, but I stayed there. I think it was in 2016, actually. Yeah, I stayed there all of January. No, I'm sorry, all of December and part of January, I remember. So I was by myself in this house owned by the government. And every day I would just wake up, make breakfast, and I would go into the woods and just have a blast. Like I spent Christmas there. I spent New Year's Day there by myself, just how I like it. And I was just in the woods, in my element, having fun. But I got to tell you that at night, that house got so lonely. Like it was scary. It was lonely. It was a big house. I was the only one there, except there was a cockroach that lived in the bathroom, and he was my only friend. Now he was a native cockroach. I want to say that, okay? He wasn't as ugly. No offense, German cockroach. You know, he actually lived in Texas. He was a Texas cockroach. He was just coming in because it was bitterly cold, and he was my friend, and we were the only two living things in that cabin, as far as I knew. And anyway, there's lots of weird things about the house. I was terrified at night. Like the government put like a little box and a key over the thermostat, so I had no control over the thermostat. It would get so cold at night. In the daytime, it was fine. But anyway, I was there, and one night I received a phone call, and I believe the phone call was from two aliens. I don't know what aliens means. They could be goblins, they could be poltergeists, spirits, but these two non-humans started talking to me, and it was a pretty long conversation. It lasted about like 3 minutes or so. Just to get in detail, like why I think that's what's happening. It's an odd thing to say, getting called by aliens. Well, okay. I picked up the phone. It was my cell phone. I said, hello. And then I heard somebody start talking to me. Right off the bat, I was put on edge. Like my body was like on edge. I was like, why am I on edge? Okay. The voice of the thing talking to me did not sound like a human. Okay. It did not sound like a foreign accent. It did not sound like feminine. It didn't sound masculine. It sounded more like an animal kind of. Like if I had to put a image to that voice, it was like a little gremlin. Like that's what it sounded like. And then so that's what happened. I was immediately scared and immediately thrown off by this. I've never heard a voice like this. My first thought was, this is a wrong number and this is a foreigner. It's a human speaking a different language. Okay, so I was like, no entiendo, parlez-vous français? I don't know. I was just, but then I was like, they kept talking and I was like, no, that's not it. Like, this is not a foreigner. And then I realized what was happening is that the language this thing was using was English. Okay. Every word was English, but it was using it in a way that didn't make any sense at all. It wasn't gibberish because, you know, it had rhythm to it. Like it didn't sound like someone's just saying random words. Mm-hmm. It was random words. It was random English words that didn't make sense. But the way they were saying it, it sounded like they were actually talking to me. I started freaking out, panicking, and then it got worse because its friend got on the line. So then it was a three-way call. So another gremlin got on the phone, and it was cool. It was funny because it was the same type of animal because its voice had similar characteristics, but it was obviously another individual. You know, mm-hmm. You know how my voice is different. I'm a man, you're a man, but we have different voices. We're unique, even though we're species. You know, that's what it was. So I was like, okay, so two of these things are talking to me. I started getting scared, and I will say right now, I wish I didn't get scared. I wish I could have been calm. I mean, that happens in paranormal encounters. People can't help it. They freak out and they panic. But I recommend you try not to panic. If you find yourself having a paranormal encounter, first of all, you know, all of us here, we love the paranormal, right? So what you should be like is like, wow, this is cool. Okay, don't get scared. If you see something happen to you, if you see a UFO, if you see something next to your bed, I mean, I know it's hard. It's hard.
It's kind of tough.
It's tough. But it will be to your benefit. I wasn't able to do it, but it would be to your benefits if you're calm and you start thinking like, wow, this is awesome. Like savor it, like savor that moment. Try to learn as much as you can from it. But that's not what I did. Okay. I was so scared. So I really thought I was.
You said they were speaking English, but they were not using words that go together.
Yes.
So were you receiving like so even with that, did you get anything out of what they were saying? Did it translate at any point or?
In the future, it did. At the time, it didn't. Like I've done more research and it makes more sense to me. Okay. At the time, no. And at the time, something new I've been thinking is like, why was I so scared? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people get scared when something paranormal happens or like they're in the woods and they feel a Bigfoot near them. that I almost feel like if I can't help it, like maybe if you're just around paranormal stuff, physiologically, like it just makes your blood boil. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're next to a hot stove, you can't help it. You're going to get hot. Your skin's going to feel hot. I wonder if some of these paranormal things, if you just can't help it, they're so strange and they're so weird. It's like being around a skunk or an electric eel. If you're around a skunk, you may not be able to help it. You may smell bad. If you're around an electric eel, you may not be able to help it. You might get electrocuted in the water. Maybe if you're around goblins, you just can't help it. Like your body ends up panicking. A lot of people also say that like they feel like paranormal entities want them to get scared and feed off their fear, like a emotional vampire, like a fear vampire. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think our fear is some kind of energy source for some of these things.
So let me ask you this. So going in order. So you had the experience with the aliens with the phone call. So when I guess you could, if you didn't know what you were dealing with, I guess you could see that as being paranormal potentially. But knowing what you know now and where the line is drawn between extraterrestrials and paranormal, if there is a line to be drawn, because they might be related in some way. When did the paranormal things kick in, and what type of experience were you having?
That's a good question. I would say the main paranormal thing that I experienced was a term called high strangeness. Okay, so high strangeness, just you experience something that doesn't really make sense to you. You've never experienced it before. And I mean, your question also, like, all I could say about this experience is that it was a strange experience. You know what I mean? I've thought about it a lot. It's possible I was prank called by two humans. It is possible. I mean, even if that happened, that's strange. Like, what a weird way to prank call somebody.
Yeah.
But I have no physical evidence or data, but my heart just tells me that these weren't humans prank calling me. But I don't know what they were. But just the fact that they're not humans is strange. Like, what else calls people other than humans? You know.
Right.
So yeah, I guess just the high strangeness of the voice, the sound of the voice, the way the language was being done. Like what I eventually ended up doing is like, I didn't want to get abducted. I assumed I was going to get abducted. And I've been in situations in these woods when I've done research where I've had like a life and death situation. So I've gotten lost in the woods, you know, and these woods are so thick. It's called the Big Thicket. The reason is because like sometimes if you just want to make an inch of progress, it takes you like 10 minutes. You have to get on your belly just to move forward in the woods. So I got lost and I had to combat that. And then, you know, the way I had to get unlost was I have to, because the forest was so thick, I had to walk in the creek. So I had to stay in the creek, which was sandy. And that's dangerous because some parts of the creek are very deep and I had to have crossed a log. I could have fallen and drowned. Nobody was there. There's so many venomous snakes. If a venomous snake would have, bit me and gave me venom. Anyway, in that situation, I pulled myself together and I was like, no, I got to take control of this. I'm not going to go out this way. And I got out of the woods. Another time I got stuck in quicksand, the same, national preserve. I was like next to a big river and it was this really sandy area. I got stuck in quicksand. I didn't panic and I got out of it. So that kicked in to me. I was like, okay, I'm having another maybe life or death, just intense situation. And I have to gain control. I have to gain the upper hand. That's what my mind thought. So the plan that I came up with is let me pay attention to what they're saying. Like really pay attention. Let me memorize something that they say. And then as a way to communicate with them, let me say it back to them. I was like, it may not be a good plan, but it was a plan. It's better than nothing. That's what I did. So I listened and this is what I think they said. Okay. This is probably maybe 80% correct because it happened so many years ago and I was panicked. So I'm just saying my best memory, what I remember they said was, the phrase was, "Where's the bucket, Leroy?" And he said it in a weird goblin voice. That was just one of many things they were saying to me, a bunch of weird things, but that's what I memorized. Where's the bucket, Leroy? So I started yelling it back to them. I was just like, where's the bucket, Leroy? And I got more animated. I went outside. It was freezing cold. All the night sky was there. I had the phone in my hand. I was just like, where's the bucket, Leroy? They eventually hung up on me. And so I don't know, I freaked them out. And to me, that was some kind of conclusion. I wish I hadn't handled it that way. Like I said, I wish I could have been calm and invited him over for a beer or something. But that's not what happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can only, but you have the experience, you've cataloged it, and it's cool to say, okay, I'm not really sure what that was, but this is what happened. So, not saying that it was extraterrestrial or even paranormal, but I'll say this to you. I actually interviewed someone, a couple with, they're not an actual couple, but a man and a lady. They're with the company called UAPPD, former police officers. I asked a gentleman about his sighting, and his one encounter was of getting a phone call while on patrol from a payphone that had nobody at it. He said he was looking right at the phone and there was no one at the phone, and he was being called from it. So there may be something to that with on the paranormal end. With, I don't know how that would be possible, or what, how a entity would be able to tap into it. I don't get that. Just like you stated with the aliens, I don't know how that would be the case, but there's other people that have reported that. So I kind of want to just let you know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens with the phone. Like, I think his name is Jeffrey Kripal. Jeffrey Kripal is a researcher at Rice University, and he's an academic guy. He studies the paranormal. He told a story which I'm going to repeat, and but other people have reported similar stories. So this is his story. He said he was in his office and a woman knew he studied the paranormal. She really wanted to visit him and just tell him something. And he's like, okay, fine. And she drove from very far away, and it was raining that day. She drove in the rain. She met him, and she told him this story. She said, her daughter had died tragically, and that was sad. And at her daughter's funeral, she said she received a phone call from her dead daughter, and they talked. And she talked to her dad, and she said a lot of people at the funeral also received a call from her and talked to their daughter. And then the woman just left in the rain. Like, that's literally all she wanted from Jeffrey Kripal, was telling that story. And I mean, he thought it was important enough to mention it on a podcast. But I've heard similar stories about receiving phone calls from the dead. Now, as far as how it could happen, like, I mean, technically, I think if you're intelligent, let's say if you have a UFO, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm saying if you have a UFO, that's a lot of technology. I think it'd be very easy to just tap into the line of someone's phone and just call them. That'd be one of the. I mean, humans can do that. If you're a hacker, you could just tap into someone's phone and call them, or so. I don't think it's difficult to do, but yeah.
Yeah, I
a
guess
lot of weird stuff happens.
That it could be. I mean, yeah, there was a movie way back in the 80s that was called Shocker. I think it was called Shocker, and the guy had gone to the electric chair, and then so he was now in this energy form, and he was able to kind of go through phone lines and electricity lines. So that, the theory makes sense that if we're energy and, it's essentially energy that powers these phones, then maybe there's some way that can be done that we just don't understand at this point. So that might be something that we're looking at, but kind of getting into, so you're into all these different things. So you have the UFOs, you have some of the paranormal. I understand that you from what I've seen, I looked at a couple of videos where you were covering like Sasquatch dogmen as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any experiences with those?
No, I personally don't. I've just collected stories, but I haven't. I mean, that area that I'm in, the area I was talking about that I've done research, like I mentioned earlier, there's this website, I forget what it's called, but there's this website that just tracks Bigfoot sightings. If you just go there, like this area has pretty detailed Bigfoot sightings. I'm sorry, I meant Bigfoot. So I'm just saying, like, okay, that time I got lost and I was in the woods and I had to cross the water, like that little part of woods I was in has at least 3 reports of someone seeing a Bigfoot crossing the road in that small little area. So I don't know, that area is peppered with Bigfoot, but I never seen one before. But if I wanted to do research with Bigfoot, I would probably do it there because it's only an hour and a half away from me. The other thing, though, is that there's a lot of Indian reservations there, or at least one Indian reservation. And I had a friend tell me that it could be just some Native Americans, I don't know, playing dress up or being mistaken, maybe on purpose or on accident, as Bigfoot. I thought that was interesting. I mean, to me, that's still strange. I mean, like I said, that phone call, if it was just 2 people prank calling me, that's still so weird. It's still abnormal to me. And if there's Native Americans dressing up as a Bigfoot and scaring people on the road, almost getting run over, That's also very interesting to me. Like, why is that happening?
Yeah, I would think to just in my observation, anytime I've experienced the natives or spoken to someone, like we'll have Travis later, who's with the tribe, that they usually take their stuff pretty serious, and to the point to where I don't know. I mean, you can't speak for everyone, but it would be hard for me to see a native or someone that takes that seriously doing that, unless it was some sort of dress, for some sort of ceremony, maybe potentially, and that could be something. That'd be
Yeah.
something I would look at potentially.
If it was a person, the scenarios, these are the scenarios. Like, people are driving down the little forest road. Like, this is the most like smallest road in the world. It's just a little dirt path that's surrounded by deep woods all around you, and there's really nothing there. So the only reason you're passing maybe is a shortcut. But anyway, people report they're just driving at night, and they almost hit the Bigfoot, or they see the Bigfoot crossing. And it's always the nighttime, but in the lights, they see just a hair, they see a hominid. So it would have, if it was a person, it'd have to be someone like purposefully dressing up. And I think it's pretty dangerous, even if it's not a Native American. If it's just a person pretending to be a Bigfoot, it's very dangerous to do that, because there's a lot of hunting. The culture there, the culture in East Texas, I love it, by the way. It's all about guns, so it'd be very dangerous to do that. You would risk getting shot and killed. So
Yeah. I mean, and even if it was a Bigfoot, now you said something earlier that we could kind of go into, where you said that you felt like were these paranormal entity, and I've always had this question too, so we can talk more about this, that these entities are like just right past our vision, right? So you said that, if you could go into explaining that more, because I think that's something we really can hit.
Yeah, and I could explain that by talking about microbiology. So literally, the name of the show, Microbiology and the Paranormal. I'll talk about that and answer your question. So I think a lot of people that study the paranormal, they're fascinated by this idea of an invisible world. That's what I think the paranormal represents for a lot of people. They're like, there's this whole other world where Bigfoot are real, where fairies are real, where abductions are real, and it's invisible because it's out of reach. It's not like the world of birds where we could take pictures of birds. It's not like the world of fish where we could catch fish. It's this invisible world. And that's interesting to me. And I think that's accurate too, by the way. I think a lot of paranormal things represents an invisible world that is just outside of our senses. Literally, our eyes, our ears, our nose, we cannot pick up on it. That's all that's happening.
Right.
And the way that relates to microbiology is because the micro world is an invisible world. Okay. To me, it's fascinating. Like, if I get a little piece of moss is a very primitive plant. It grows on the ground, on the side of trees. It's very old. It's just kind of green. It sticks to the ground. Moss, if you pick up a little moss, the size of a small coin, if you soak it in water and you look at it under a high-powered microscope, you will see the equivalent of a rainforest of strange animals. Strange animals like water bears, rotifers, nematodes, protozoans. It goes on, and you would never. They're all around us, and you would never. They have their own lives. They look crazy. Like, if you made them the size of a horse, it'd be terrifying. You'd have the scariest monster. It'd be like an alien. I mean, they're alien in the fact that they're so strange, but they are from Earth. So I've spent a lot of time exploring the micro world, and the reason I can do this invisible world and study it is because I have a tool, which is a microscope. So a lot of me believes, part of me as a scientist believes, in order to make progress in the paranormal, one of the reasons we haven't is we don't have a tool. Our eyes are not good enough. Well, here's the thing. Some people do. Some people, I do believe, can sense the paranormal. Something's about their bodies different. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But 99% of people can't. So part of me is like, we just need to invent this tool. If you've seen, what's that movie with that wrestler where he puts on the sunglasses, and then he sees the real world?
Yes. Roddy Piper, I believe.
Yeah.
They live. Yeah.
We basically need that. That's the simplest way I could put it. We need a device like a microscope or a telescope where it'll just filter out the paranormal, because I do think it's all around us. And yeah, sometimes we rarely bump into it.
Yeah, I do feel like it's something that is right there, and that makes sense because they had the movie called The Sixth Sense, so an extra sense or just something else that's unlocked within you, because there's a lot of things that are still locked within us that we haven't, and one of those things could be to see into that other dimension, could be to when you get to remote viewing, when you get to telepathy and all that stuff, the things that we need that can be unlocked with our mind. So I think that's very possible. And it's when you explain it like that, for someone who, if you were trying to, explain this to someone who's just coming on the scene, that's a great explanation, where something just right out of your vision, and it's because you don't have the ability to detect what that is. And night vision is another thing, right? Because you put on a night vision goggle, and there's so many things that you see, and it kind of blows your mind because you're not seeing this with the naked eye. So it's pretty amazing.
The other thing about this invisible world is it's a completely natural. Like there's nothing strange about it. Like it happens all the time. What I was just describing, that moss, that moss, the relationship that humans have with the moss is it's very similar to the relationships that humans have with the paranormal. Okay, in that example, we're the moss, and the paranormal are humans. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, like, for humans to realize the truth about the universe and about these paranormal beings, it would be like a tardigrade, like a nematode, realizing the truth of us, of humans.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for them to grasp. But
yeah,
I'm saying that happens all the time, though. Like there's always animals that are beyond each other's grasp for whatever reason. And I think everything that's paranormal represents things that are outside of our grasp. I think we can evolve. Like, here's the thing. It's not that hard to be able to see these things, though. You don't need actually like binoculars or these special glasses. All my research, and I'm sure you've come up to the same conclusion, all my research shows that meditation is the answer. Basically, if you just meditate, it's got a lot of health benefits, but that is your answer. That'll let you see the invisible world, communicate with the invisible world, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all that's missing. So, and have you heard about that CIA project called the Gateway Project? That basically describes exactly how to do this with step-by-step directions. It's declassified.
Project Stargate?
Yeah, Stargate, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something we can get into because we're coming to the end of the hour right now. And I want to get into the whole microbiology aspect and how you apply this to the paranormal. See, and one thing I'll point to, as you were saying a moment ago, is just the scale. Is when you look at what are those tardigrades, right?
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at it, it's, I forgot what the term is, but it's like in magnitude, us compared to the rest of the universe is how it's, they compare to us essentially, like it's scaled down. It's like a scale model of our existence within the universe. And when you think about that, it kind of makes me think about really what our place is. Like, are we essentially one of those tardigrades living on something living that we just can't understand, that we can't understand the scale of? You know what I mean? Like, are we inside of something, or are we just an organism, a microorganism compared to the scale of whatever the top of this thing is? So it's just something I thought about, and I think we'll kind of leave it right there before we go to break. So we'll take a 5-minute break here, guys, and we'll be right back with our guest, Wild Trees. You guys actually, if we can get some questions together, put them all in caps, and that way I can make sure that I grab those. Until then, we will be right back in just a minute, right after these messages. So here we go.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And our guest tonight, biologist, microbiologist, Wild Trees. We were talking earlier before the break there, and we were kind of just getting in, talking about how the scale of these microorganisms compared to us potentially is the scale of us compared to the universe, and just that whole thought process. Being a microbiologist, I'm sure you've looked at that aspect. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, man, you were saying some really thought-provoking ideas, and I've had similar thoughts, and I've reached some conclusions about our place in the universe. And hey, these could change, but just as of today, the day of our Lord, May 5th, 2024, this is what I think is going on with our place. Okay. I think that everything scales infinitely in both directions. As an example, I think things infinitely get smaller. So I'm a human, if you get smaller, I have a heart. A heart is just an organ. If I get smaller, there's a cell that's in my heart. If I get smaller, there's a single atom that makes up my heart. Inside of the atom, there's subatomic particles like electrons, protons, neutrons. Inside of these, there are gluons and quarks. And inside of those, there's other things, and it keeps going and going. And if you go out, it also goes, I'm a human. I live on a planet. The planet is in a solar system. The solar system is in a universe. The universe is in a cosmos. There's multiple cosmoses. There's multiple groups of cosmos. It goes on forever. So my conclusion is that no matter who you are or at what scale you are, there's a duality that's happening. At any time, you are the biggest thing in the universe, and you are the smallest thing at the universe. You are both always at any time, no matter what size. Because right now, as a human, I am like the biggest thing in the world compared to a quark or a subatomic particle. But I am also the smallest thing in the world when it comes to a cosmos. But at the same time, the planet is the smallest thing as well as the biggest thing. So it's kind of this weird state of duality. And that's my conclusion about where we. So at any moment, we're the most important thing that could ever be, but we're also the most insignificant thing that it could ever be. And that's kind of beautiful to me. That's what I think is going on.
It is very beautiful. It is very scary too, because it means that we're all searching for the answer to the key of life and the reason why we are what we are. And it would be, I think, when Lou Elizondo uses the word somber when describing what the phenomena is, and I wonder about that when he says that, because I'm like, I go through a list of things that could be somber besides alien invasion and things of that nature, which be the worst things to think about. Then to get to more of an aspect of, okay, they say this is a prison planet, or say this is a zoo planet. And then you start getting down to okay, are we really just insignificant on the grand scale of things? I don't think that that's the case, because we're so special in what we do, and we kind of break the mold for anything that is within nature. And I've said this too. It's like the balance, like it almost seems like we shouldn't be here when you look at the rest of the planet and how they interact with each other, all other animals, even down to microorganisms, how everything works in unison, in harmony. But it seems like humans are the only things that work against all that. And it just makes me think about our place in this whole thing. I don't know. Like I say, both the duality can be scary.
Here's the thing, the duality gives you some benefits because, here's the other thing, okay? The duality can be used to comfort you better than you've ever been comforted. But at the same time, it could scare you as much. So you have to decide which one you want. And you could switch, you could be in between, but okay, how is this comforting, Okay, here's this idea. Here, let me try to comfort you as far as what you said about how humans are let me just call ourselves agents of disaster. Is that kind of what you were trying to say? That sometimes humans can be agents of disaster? Is that what you meant earlier when you said that we're
essentially when it comes to being in unison with the rest of nature. Yes.
Okay. So if you allow me to, let's call this the fact that we're not in unison with nature, let's call that disastrous. Let's say it results in disasters, if we could agree with that. Okay. So here's what's interesting about disasters. So there's this hypothesis. A hypothesis is it's not as big as a theory. It's basically the scientific idea that could possibly be true. Doesn't mean it is, but I like it. So this hypothesis is called the intermediate disturbance hypothesis. And so those are a lot of big words. Basically, what it means is like disasters that happen sometimes, not all the times and not never. So to break it down, if you have a forest, that forest needs disasters to happen for it to be healthy. Okay. If no disasters ever happen, if there's no flooding, no fires, no storms, it'll create its own disaster. Like the trees will get too big and they'll block out the sun. Everything under the trees will die, and it will not be a productive system. You'll have low biodiversity. You don't want that. You want some disasters. You want a fire every now and then to happen because it clears away all the old growth and lets new growth happen. You don't want disasters all the time. I mean, if it's always flooding all the time, never stops, that's bad as well. So you have to have disasters are necessary. It's built into the system. And so what I'm trying to say is if we cause disasters, humans, then maybe we're just part of the system because disasters are healthy. Now, here's the thing. You have to come to grips with this, okay? It could be that humans are causing a mass extinction right now.
Yeah.
What I mean, okay, here's the thing. Mass extinctions have happened before. It's natural. I'm sorry to break it to anybody who doesn't think this, but there's going to be another mass disaster. I mean, a mass extinction. It's happened like 5 times already. So it's going to happen again. I would say it's guaranteed that we're going to have another mass extinction. That means almost every single thing on this planet dies. Every animal you've ever seen is dead. It no longer exists. It will no longer exist. This has happened before. I think it's going to happen again. Now, that may seem like a bad thing to humans because we're on a scale that measures times in decades. Because a human only lives like 100 years if we're lucky, right? That's pushing the limits. So to us, we look at everything in these eyes of like months, weeks, and of course it looks bad. But the planet is on a scale of billions of years.
Right.
So if we cause here's the thing, if we cause a mass extinction, which we might, that means that all the life on Earth will be dead. Everybody all humans will be dead. But if you give the planet 100 million years, which that's the thing, 100 million years is not a long time in the scale of the planet. That's nothing. That's like a little bathroom break. But if we cause a mass extinction, which could be healthy, it could be that, well, actually, I don't think it is healthy right now. But if we cause a mass extinction, what I'm saying is 100 million years, everything will be back to normal. So it's really not a disaster. It's only a disaster because we look at it like a disaster.
Yeah. And it ends up being a disaster because it's our own fate. You know what I mean? That's on the line. And that's kind of where we start looking into the conversation that they're having about this phenomenon. The people who claim that they have more information than most people because they talk to people behind the scenes. So what those people could be saying could not line up with anything, but they keep mentioning words like spiritual and somber with what's going on here. Like they're saying things like it's not what you're expecting. And so it just kind of gets you thinking. I mean, and obviously this whole exercise that we're going through is a thinking exercise. And but it just, when you look at some of those angles of it, yeah, I mean, you what you just said is absolutely right. On the mass extinction level, it could be literally what our destiny is as human beings, because we can't seem to get things right. We can't, we seem to do things that go against the natural flow of nature. And you could be right. That could be what we are. But there's obviously the sad side of things that ends up being the case, because hopefully what we're hoping is that we can get to this, we can enlighten ourselves as human beings and kind of raise ourselves out of the state that we're in and kind of break that cycle of destructiveness that we have been inflicting on this planet since we got into the industrial age, where we really started tearing the planet down. So hopefully with disclosure or confirmation, it lifts us above that and allows us to kind of do, as Aloha Dave said, the great reset, but not the great reset necessarily on population, just on knowledge and enlightenment and understanding how to, having more appreciation for this world that we're in and learning how tuned we are and how more tuned we could be and should be to the planet, and then everything else above and below, all the way down to, atoms and molecules. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say to not be so down, I will say we have not crossed a red line. I think we're far away from a red line. Like, there's plenty of time for us to turn it around, and people are talking about turning it around. That's a positive thing. So, I mean, there's still, like, I'm out in the woods. There's still a lot of biodiversity out there. I mean, we're losing a lot of species, but we have a lot of species to begin with. That's the benefit. So at this point, like, this is a great time to be alive. I'll say that right now. I mean, we talk about doom and gloom, but it is a great time to be alive, and we could totally turn it around. So, it's not all doom and gloom. There's definitely, we have not crossed a red line where we can't turn it around.
Yeah, it's just about, so I guess what we can do is kind of figure out, just see kind of what is your thought process on the whole disclosure process. I know how I feel about it. What side is there's to me, I feel like there's a government side, a government disclosure, and then there's just the humanity, us as humans disclosing things for ourselves. So with that being said, what is your angle on this?
Okay, I'll add a second component. So you're saying governments, us as individuals, and I'll add a third component of disclosure, probably the most important, which is whatever they are themselves. If they're the aliens, that's probably the biggest point, because they're choosing not to disclose themselves. And that to me makes a lot of sense as a biologist. Like, it's all about camouflage. Animals love to camouflage themselves. Octopus camouflage themselves, insects camouflage themselves. Why do we camouflage ourselves? Because it's all about information. We don't want to give up information. Information is power. If you're an insect and you're camouflaged and you look like a twig, the predators are not going to see you.
Right.
You're not giving them this is the information. The information is, I'm really an insect, I'm defenseless, and I'm delicious. You're keeping that information to yourself as an insect by camouflaging, because that information is power. So whatever it is, I think that's one of the reasons why they're not disclosing, is because they don't want to give up the power. And that's not strange, and it's not bizarre. I understand it completely, because I do think it represents a form of life, maybe not biological life, but a lot of aspects of the paranormal, they're alive. They have some sort of life. So that's one component. Another thing I just think is interesting about disclosure is that if humans, the whole planet learns about the paranormal and whatever aliens, like, it's funny because it is a very personal thing, because there's a duality again. If disclosure happens, nothing changes, because it's always been that way. Like, nothing's changing. Everything's exactly the same as it was yesterday. The only thing that changes is your mind, is your perception of the world. That's a big thing, though. And so, talking about that perception of the world, I have come to the conclusion that it's kind of a metamorphosis for a species to go through disclosure. There's stages, and I think it's painful, and I think it's uncomfortable, but I think at the end it's necessary, and it has to be done. I think, like I said, a butterfly, if you have a caterpillar, it starts off as like a little caterpillar, it goes into a pupa, comes out completely different. It completely reconfigures its body. Everything changes, the way it acts, the way it thinks. That's a metamorphosis. When somebody learns about the truth about the paranormal, they start going through a metamorphosis. Some of them don't get out of it, unfortunately. I think the beginning stages are fear. I think not everybody, like kids, handle the paranormal better, but adults, the first stage is fear, I think, panic. And there's other stages where, like, you're angry because nobody's told you, you're being kept a secret. And there's probably other stages that are negative, but to me, the final stage where I'm at now is acceptance of the paranormal and a sense of wonder. Like, it's a positive feeling. I'm like, wow, the fact that this stuff is real, it means that there's potential for unlimited energy. There's the potential to eliminate all human suffering, like diseases. There's all these different worlds we could visit. It's amazing. There's literally there's no end to the possibilities. And I hope that's what people end up evolving. That's the final stage some people get stuck. They get stuck in fear.
So I hear you saying this, right? I hear you saying that with your thought of disclosure is that everything, we get the news and then we go on with our day. Essentially, is that how you see it? Because I see I see a potential.
Oh, okay. Like what I mean is that, like, okay, let's say, let's say, give you an example. Let's say you spend, you always go to work and it's always dark at your job, right? So you never see what color the walls are, right? And then one day, the boss turns the lights on, and you notice that there's all these like priceless paintings, like the Mona Lisa, these Picassos. Okay, that's a big deal, and you change how you act. You're like, this is amazing. But the thing is, it was always that way. Okay, the Picassos were always there. You just weren't aware because it was too dark. So that's what I mean. I mean, yeah, it will change. Yeah, the world will be fundamentally different, but at a basic level, it's not changing. The world around you is not changing. Those paintings were always there. They've been there forever, but you just didn't notice them. So the same with the paranormal. You will change and it will change the world, but nothing new is happening, Nothing is new is happening. Like, they're not coming for the first time. They've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take you down this path here because this is something that I really have thought about. And so you have sightings. I have had a sighting I've recorded, and there's many other sightings. And a lot of people are coming to the conclusion, myself included, that some of these craft that we're seeing, they give off the feeling that they're alive on some level. They feel like biological objects, and I've said this before. And it goes back to the movie Nope, because I tell people the story of when I was in the theater watching it, and everyone who led up to the movie was expecting a nuts and bolts craft with beings getting out, but it wasn't that. And the twist was, I sat in the theater at the end of the movie, and I just sat there because I didn't know how to feel for a moment. And then 5 minutes later, I thought this was genius. Like, this is brilliant, actually, to come at with this angle, because it does appear that some of these crafts are mimicking or having some sort of biological, they're acting in some, like they're alive. So essentially, what I was, a lot of people, skeptics, will say, okay, that light in the sky isn't a UFO because it's blinking, and it's blinking like a plane would or a helicopter. So it couldn't be a UFO, and they kind of write it off. I'm under the feeling that there could be something going on like biomimicry, right? Where if you come to a planet, it'd be kind of obvious that you want to blend in. And it's, biomimicry is something that's repeated in nature. We see it all over the place. So why wouldn't something that's 100,000 million years more advanced than us have enough common sense to want to blend in? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have a lot to say about that. First, let me say I love Jordan Peele. I love all his movies. I love the way he uses music in his movies to scare you and to create the mood. One of my on my channel, if you go to YouTube, Biologist Wild Trees, one of my most viewed videos is a review of Nope that I did. And and actually another weird coincidence. Let me show you. Let me turn on my camera for a little bit. This shirt is from the movie Nope.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
So in the back it even says Nope. Let me see if you can read it. I got it at the movie theater.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I thought he was on to something, because what it pointed me back to was like when when they talk about Spielberg potentially having people giving him the heads up to where he was able to create Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which when you watch it now, 50 years after it came out, it's essentially textbook what's going on today. And it's kind of mind blowing. And I thought it made me think about Nope in that way. Like, okay, the alive aspect of these crap, is that the new information being put out there? Like, is there something to that?
Yeah, well, I will say, yeah, I think, it was funny because the before that movie came out, I did another show called A Biologist Reacts to UFOs. And a lot of the stuff that happened in that movie, it hadn't come out yet. I said in that video, it was only like a few weeks before. So one of the things I said in that video, which I believe is, number one, that a possible explanation for some UFOs is that they're living animals. And I gave reasons why I thought that was possible before I saw the movie. But I was saying, like, okay, as a biologist, a microbiologist, one thing about life is that life does not let a single inch of space go to waste. You know, what I mean by that is if you're in the middle of the desert and there's like a hot road, you know, the pavement is sizzling. If you get a little Q-tip and rub it on the pavement, you're going to get some bacteria. Like something lives there. You know, life like loves to live everywhere. So to me, it's so strange that our sky is huge. It's full of tons of water. You know, did you know that? I mean, I'm sure you did, but it's full of water. That's what you need for life. You need sunlight, which is energy, and you need water. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, you know, the sky is several miles tall. You know, I think it's about 6. You know, there's different layers of the atmosphere. I talk about this in the video, but I think the closest layer where humans can be before we get to space, I think it's about 6 miles. And that's a lot of space all over the globe, 6 miles of just open space. It's so strange that nothing lives there. Like, oh, okay, you're telling me that only birds occasionally fly there? I'm like, no, like something has to live there. They're just not being noticed by us. Because like it does not make any sense that life would not adapt to this environment. It has, like I said, it's got energy as far as sunlight, and it's got water, like, and you got space. It's a recipe for life.
And they look out, the astrologists look out and point at possible life in the upper atmosphere of other planets. So yeah, why wouldn't that be the same thing here? Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And with that being said, what is your, you know, you get into the alien abductions and things like that. How do you feel about that, for one? Do you think that's a thing? And what do you think that's all about? Some people think it's to hybridize, you know, cross our DNA. I don't know about that. What do you think is going on there?
So my second video was biologist reacts to abductions. So if you want to watch that as well. Also, somebody just subscribed. I saw. Thank you, viewer, for subscribing. I really do appreciate that. Abductions. I think. Okay, here's the thing about abductions. Our universe, our planet, is full of abductions. Abduction is so common. What do I mean by that? I mean, humans abduct other humans. Humans abduct animals all the time. You know, animals have actually been known to abduct humans. I think in India there was a monkey that went into an open window and took a baby. That's an animal. So I'm saying like abduction is so common in our planet. Like it's just a thing. Everybody's abducting everybody all the time. So I think something is abducting us. And here's the thing about like layers. Whatever's abducting us, I think they're being abducted by something else also. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's abducting everybody. Like the thing that's abducting us, there's something more powerful than it, and it's abducting it and studying it. I really think that's true. So yeah, abduction makes total sense to me. I don't know what's causing it. I mean, all I can say is there's some kind of form of life up there. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it comes from, but there's some kind of life out there that's abducting us. But it makes sense why we would abduct. Like I performed abductions on salamanders. Okay, I was in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. We went hiking up this huge mountain. Okay, I had to wake up early. We had to cross this river. You know, the water was up to my knees. We had to go up, and it was snow everywhere. And we got to this super isolated, pristine mountain view, and it was these big pools of water. And I wasn't the main scientist. I was visiting, but I saw with the scientists, they would get this long pole with a little net. They would scoop up the salamanders. Okay, that's like, you know, an alien abducting us from our home. They would take it to a tent. That's like the UFO. They would measure it. Okay, they would mark it. They would even put an implant in it. Okay, and then they would drop it back in the pond. I was like, dude, this is a classic abduction. It makes sense on paper. I don't know if it's a trick. I don't know if what's abducting us is trying to trick us to make us think. I don't know, but I'm just saying it really feels like an animal trying to understand us better, and that's what looks like what's happening.
You're going down the right path. You're going down and I'll tell you, I'm gonna tell you this. This is mind blowing that was the explanation that you gave. I just thought of this. I talked to my girl about this a few days ago. We had a debate about it. So I said same thing you said. So we run around here, and I use the savannah for an example. So we're in the helicopters, we're flying across the savannah, and we go and we tag something. We go ahead and examine it while it's asleep. The whole intent for us is to put the thing to sleep, whatever it is, examine it, tag it, and then be gone by the time it wakes up. So my theory was, what if that's what they're doing with us when it comes to abductions? What if the people because the original question was to her, which I've asked other guests, is if you, as far as we know right now, abductions are on a small scale comparatively to the population. But I said, what if we were to regress everybody else, even people who had not encountered UFOs or didn't think they did? If we were to regress everyone, would we find out that actually everybody's been abducted at some point, or a large percentage? And my theory for that is, to kind of back that up, would be, okay, we have experiencers who have told stories about abductions. What if the whole point of it is that you're not supposed to be woke during the abduction? So what if you, and just like any other time you put something to sleep, it wakes up before you, before the time is up. So what if the people who report abductions are the people who just happen to wake up during the abduction? And what if the rest of the people are just, you would never know because you were asleep the whole time? So same way going into surgery, when they count you down, when they and then you're under, and then you just wake up in another room with the nurse helping you out. So that whole time that you were asleep, like, what if you weren't supposed to wake up during the time? The whole purpose is, we're going to take this human, we're going to put him to sleep, we're going to examine them, we're going to put the person back, they're going to wake up, they don't think anything has ever happened. Have you ever thought about that, and what do you think about that aspect?
Yeah, dude. I think you hit the nail. You smacked that nail right on the head, man. You got the hammer and you just yeah, no, that's exactly what I think is going on. That's the conclusion I've come to as well. Like, one thing I've said about paranormal encounters in general, but specifically abductions, I was like, look, either they rarely happen, maybe they don't happen that, or they're rarely remembered. I think that's so. I think it's possible that everybody's been abducted. We're just not remembering them. I think that's very possible. The other thing is that, people always say, like, oh, here's some things that people say against the abduction, and I'm gonna like debunk their explanations. Okay, some people say, if they're so smart, why do we even know they're abducting us? Why do we wake up early? Okay, here's the thing. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm a smart guy. Let's just say I'm a dumb guy, but I've been around a lot of smart people in my career. And being smart does not mean perfect. Okay. They're not the same thing. Okay. If you're the world's best doctor, you could mess up, you could crash your car. You could, even at your job, it doesn't mean you're perfect. Like, I don't think anything's perfect, but yeah. Okay. So I think that's a debunk there. I mean, the fact that they're not perfect, they make mistakes, I think that's just the nature of the universe. It's impossible. Yeah. It may be that since so few people know about abductions, they're actually doing a great job. Like, their percentage is amazing,
Exactly. Exactly. But people aren't, see, the normal thought process on that isn't that. It's just that, hey, if you ask people within ufology, they'll say, it's only a certain group of people that keep getting abducted, or it's because of a genetic bloodline or some of those things. And I'm like, okay, what's more likely though? Because I think, once again, common sense solves a lot of these questions that we have. And you don't need academic knowledge in order to solve the questions of life, because I don't think you could learn anything that would teach you this. So with that being said, I'm thinking that exactly what you said. They have a great track record of abducting and not being detected, and it's just a small handful of people that happen to wake up.
I want to give a shout out to Aloha Dave. Thank you, Aloha Dave, for subscribing. I encourage everybody, please subscribe. Biologist Wild Trees. I guarantee you won't regret it.
Yeah, they should have. Usually they throw your link in the chat. If you guys have his link, go ahead and throw it in the chat, please.
The other, there's this other guy, which I respect, but I think he's wrong about abductions. Okay, his name is Jacques Vallée, French ufologist. Okay, I think he's right a lot about things. But I remember he wrote a research paper, which I read on my channel. He wrote 2 academic research papers about UFOs, and I read both of them, and I go over them on my channel. But one of the things against abductions that he says is, he's like, why it doesn't make sense that they keep abducting us over and over again. Like, well, don't they have enough data? Like, he crunched the numbers. He's like, that should be enough information. Okay. Now that's wrong. Okay. Because I think I know why he's wrong, because he's looking at it as he's an astronomer. I'm sorry, he's an astronomer. He's a computer scientist. He's a tech whiz. He's a Silicon Valley entrepreneur. He's a UFO visionary, but he's not a biologist. And the thing is, these experiments are biological in nature. They're sampling a living organism. And the thing is, I've studied biology and I've seen a lot of projects. It's very beneficial to have what's called a long-term data set, or an incredibly large data set. It's so powerful, but rare. Like, there are some scientists out there that are like 70 years old now, but when they were 20, they started sampling the same mountain valley to count how many flowers came up and when they came up. And every summer for 70 years, they did it. And they have amazing data, and they're super famous, and we love them for it. I think just Jack Velli does not realize that in biology, having long-term massive data sets in biology, even though it's time-consuming, is incredibly valuable. So that's just another debunked by a really big guy, but I just think he's wrong about that.
Yeah. I've heard that aspect of it too. Maybe they should have moved on, but they've been here for so long that our idea of enough data may not even compute to what it is that they're doing or collecting. But yeah, so with that being said, that's why I'm going in for regression this year. I've talked about it because I don't ever recall anything like this happening, but I do have a mark that I always question, and it's just like, why not get regressed to find out the thing? And I tried to explain this to my girl, and she just wasn't getting it. I'm letting her know, like, it's very possible that you caught a moment of the abduction and you just don't recall it. You stored it somewhere in your mind, and you can't access that until you go through something like a regression or hypnosis and to access those parts of your mind. And because you'd be shocked. I'm like, how would you feel if you were someone that had nothing to do with UFOs and you take part in this regression just to find out that you've been abducted 1,000 times? Like, how does that change you? And it should immediately change the way you look at life, and maybe how you go forward. But I think it's important, because I think it's more likely that there isn't any reason that I could think of that these things would want to have you awoke while they're doing what they're doing. It just doesn't make any sense at all to have a brief conversation. Nah, I don't know. You know what I mean? I think maybe you guys woke up before you were supposed to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gizmo, for the super chat too.
And thank you. Someone else subscribed too. Thank you so much. Okay, so here's the thing about the trauma of learning you've been abducted a lot. How to handle that? I've thought about it. I think you should pre-handle it before it happens. Like, I came up with this term. It's called pre-mourning somebody's death. So I mean, somebody you love hasn't died yet. Maybe they're even healthy, but it's hard to explain, but you start making peace with the fact that they're going to be dead and they're going to die. So you imagine the world where they're already dead. It's not you don't wish them dead. I'm just saying that everybody's going to die one day. And you just make peace with it. You decide. You could even talk to them. Like, I've talked to family members, and I'm like, look, when you die, because I love you so much, after you die, I believe there's an afterlife. So what I'm going to do is every Sunday, I'm going to have lunch with you. I'm going to have lunch at a certain time, and there's going to be an empty seat, and I'm just going to talk to you, and you can hang out with me. That's like pre-mourning, getting ready for that experience. So when it happens, you're prepared. So maybe you could prepare yourself, or people can prepare yourself for the idea that they've been abducted all their lives before they find out, and they try to make some peace with that.
Yeah. But I think truthfully, I don't think that's a problem for anyone within ufology. I think everyone within ufology could handle that pretty well and do exactly as you said. But I think it's about the ones that will find out when they land on the White House lawn, or when they have this regression. These are people that never thought this could be possible, said they didn't believe it, just to find out that they have actually been abducted. I think it's the ontological shock.
Of course. Let me ask you this, okay? Because this will affect things. The things that are abducting us, okay. I'm gonna try to phrase this correctly. There's lots of options, not just the ones I give you, but the things that are abducting us, do you think they have positive intentions, mixed intentions, negative intentions? or is it a
I think
rainbow of intentions?
I think it's a rainbow. If it's to believe that there's all these different races, then there is no way that all their intents could be benevolent. So just by the odds, with so many being involved, there's got to be one that just uh, isn't a nice species. Some people say they know what they are, reptilians, and they'll name them. I'm not going that far because I don't know. I haven't met one to be able to name them like that. But there's theories that there's a few out there and they're battling against there's so many different theories. It's hard to say, but I can say for sure there's at least probably one that doesn't really have our best interests at heart.
Okay, I think it's fair. Thanks again. I got to another 2 subscribers. You guys are great. Okay, so I think what we need to do is look. I think a big part of this is to make peace with a lot of things. Okay, like the rabbit has made peace with the fact that at any time it could be eaten whole by a fox or a coyote. The rabbit does not. It lives its life. It doesn't spend its whole life worried that, you know what, I'm so small. I'm a small animal and I'm defenseless. And it could be at any moment of my life. This is true for a rabbit. Any moment of my life, I could be eaten. I could be swallowed and I'm just dead. Any moment. It doesn't worry about that. It makes peace with this idea. And it's like, I'm just going to enjoy my life. I'm going to have a wife or a husband and kids, a family. I'm going to eat. I'm going to explore. I'm going to jump and I'm going to have fun. And I think humans need to just be like, look, man, we're like a rabbits, and there's things out there like coyotes and foxes and even worse things. And that's just the way it is. It's okay. I mean, some of us are going to get killed. Okay. But I mean, people die all the time. I'm just saying it's not the only guarantee is that we're going to die. So I just think we need to make peace with the fact that we're just a rabbit. That's the thing. The problem is everybody's like, no, I'm a human. I'm the top dog. Like there's nothing better than a human. Baby, I got news for you, man. We're like a bacteria. Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay though. You can still enjoy your life. You can still have a full life. Enjoy being human, And if you want to meditate and transcend the void and go to the other realms, you could do that too. But I think we just need to make peace with the truth.
Yeah, and I that's really what this whole experience working through this is, and what it's going to be for us. Coming out on the other end of this is going to be interesting because it really all depends on what it is that we find out. But my whole idea is that we should regardless, we understand, at least here on earth, that there's evil and there's good. So there's malevolent, there's benevolent. We know both sides of that. So the smart thing to do as human beings would just to be prepared for either. And kind of just work through this as best as we can. But I'm envisioning a world on the other side of this and that's why disclosure needs to come fast and not slow drip. Because if it comes fast, then you don't have a choice but to make decisions now. If you let it slow drip, then the powers that be can manipulate the situation and continue with business as usual on the other side of disclosure. I think that that's not what we need. I think that we need catastrophic disclosure. It happens right away. We sit down as human beings. We try to figure out how we want to go forward. With maybe things change as far as who has power, how we give out power, and things of that nature. I mean, that's really what we're facing, I feel like, and what the big thing for us to kind of get together and go through is could be tomorrow, could be 50 years down the line, but I think it's coming.
Look, I think we're ready. There's been enough slow drip already. There's been enough. It's not like we're going to be fresh to the idea. Everybody alive, even little kids, understand. They see a picture of a grade, they understand the concepts. Even a little kid. So I mean, we're as ready as we're ever going to be. I'll put it that way. We're not going to get any more ready than this. The other thing is, though, I'm not holding my breath for a government to do it. There has to be an incentive for them, a big, probably monetary or power incentive for a government to do it. Maybe you could tell me if you could think of one, but I think humans can disclose on a per human basis. Every human can come to realize the truth through meditation or having encounters. I mean, the power's there. Like I've disclosed to myself, you've disclosed to yourself. A lot of people listening have disclosed to themselves. I mean, it can't be done. That's probably a slow way of doing it, but there's nothing stopping that from happening. I just don't think the governments are going to do it unless there's a monetary or power incentive, and there hasn't been one yet. There's no big incentive for them to disclose. There's no way that a government will become more powerful. I just don't think so because it hasn't happened yet.
They will never do it. And here's what they're doing. Here's one of the things that they're doing is they're putting the narrative out there that if we were to just find out everything tomorrow, we would all go crazy. We would lose everything. The world would go crazy. They put that narrative out there to scare people from pushing for disclosure, when really what it is, if disclosure happens fast, that means they can't monitor and control the process. And I think that's really what their goal is to slow drip this so they can guarantee that by the time they are ready to disclose, which I don't think we'll ever see, they'll be in a position where they can still maintain power on the other side. And now we're in this new era. But I really think that, they're afraid of us finding out quickly, because of that very reason. I don't know how that may shake up the world. It could potentially, it could throw us back into a stone age. It could do a lot of things, but the thing is that do we continue on the path we're on, where we're on the brink of nuclear war anyways, which will annihilate everyone on the planet, or do we gamble and take a shot and try to do something good for humanity? And those really are the two choices. And it's like, depends on what side you stand on.
That's true. Here's something that's positive, though. Okay. I was talking to my friend who's a medical doctor, and he's a skeptic about UFOs, although I think I've made some progress with him. We got into a heavy debate. I got him to admit this. He's a heavy skeptic. He's a medical doctor. I got him to admit that it's possible that in our oceans, which are so vast and unexplored, there lives a species that's more intelligent than humans. I walked through all the details, and he finally had to say, yeah, okay, that is a possibility. Because, nobody ever goes in the ocean. It's 80% of anyway, there's all these reasons why. But I was talking to him, and he said something that it was like a big moment for me. Like, it opened my eyes, and it was kind of comforting. He basically said, nothing can hide from the scientific method forever. Okay? And I think that's true. I think science is basically just a tool. I don't want to get into the philosophy of science. Aloha Dave asked if I had a philosophy major. I think I just like to push these scientific questions to their very limits and then go further. And maybe that's why some of the ideas come up philosophical, but that's just what my brain likes to do. But so science, I think, is a tool. It's just like a hammer, the way science works as a tool is it answers questions. It's almost like a genie. It's kind of magical. You know how the Aladdin's genie, it had the power to answer any 3 wishes. Well, science gives you the power to answer any question. So you ask it a question and you do the ritual, the magical ritual of science, you will get the answer. Maybe you don't like the answer, but you will get the answer. If you ask science, how do I make $1 million? How do I get out of jail faster? How do I make this plane more fuel efficient? Whatever question you have, if you follow science, you'll get the answer. It's a very powerful tool. So the question is out there, is the paranormal real? So I don't think the paranormal will ever be able to hide from it. So eventually we will find out the truth. When that happens, I think what we think of the paranormal now will become commonplace. Like everybody will just know about aliens and abductions and Bigfoot. That'll be kind of, I don't want to say boring, but it'll be more commonplace. But it will be replaced by the new paranormal, something beyond what we think of the paranormal now. There will always be a paranormal because we will never truly understand every aspect of the universe.
Yeah.
Now, it's a timeline thing, okay? Like, look, timeline, okay? If you look at how long the most powerful country in the world, which is maybe the United States, has been studying UFOs, it's only like it's less than 100 years. I'll put it that way. That's not a long time, dude. That's not a long time. So give it I don't know how much longer, another 100 years. I mean, I'm saying eventually everybody will know the truth. Nothing can hide from the scientific method forever. I do think that's true.
Yeah, it just depends on whose pockets those scientists are in. Because when it comes down to scientists that are funded, then if those funds dry up, then all of a sudden their research is shut down as well. So they're kind of biased in their opinion. Sometimes you find out. And the thing that I have with science is I think science is needed, and it's a great thing, and it should definitely be there. It's answered a lot of questions that we've had so far. But then at the same time, science is rewritten or readjusted every 20 to 30 years. So what something that we believe to be true today, they say, oh, wait, we were mistaken. It's actually something else. So 30 years later, now they've written it up. We grew up with Pluto as a planet. Now it's not a planet. Along with the other laundry list of things, even going up to, like I said, James Webb Telescope, showing us things that we didn't even realize were there. Now thought processes have to be rearranged. I mean, so it's a cool thing. It's like an educated guess sort of thing, and I like that part of it. But I don't think that it answers the real questions, right? I think where that comes in is us talking to other experiencers. Like we do that here a lot. There's more data that you can gather sitting here and put together a better picture, but just with the data that we have as people. No scientists involved, no government officials. These are all just regular people in their homes who have had experiences, and there's enough of us and enough of really good ones. I always point to Ariel School. Like if there were like 3 that should seal the deal of what we're dealing with, it's going to be an Ariel School. It's going to be the Westall School. It's going to be the Phoenix Lights. Watch the UFOs over DC, Roswell. There's ones where you can really take it to the bank and say, these things happen. This is real. This is what we have. Because everything else is just a distraction. Like if you can't take that data and then with an open mind approach that and come to a conclusion that at least says this is plausible, then I don't think anything else is going to work, because that means you're suppressing legitimate data that we have as citizens. You know what I mean? And
no, it's true.
That's the problem that I have with this right now.
Well, yeah, like touching on some things you said, like number one, what's interesting about science is like something I learned about science, and a lot of scientists have a hard time understanding this, but it's one of the most important aspects of science. Basically, science says that it is self-correcting. So it's possible that if you have enough evidence, everything we thought we knew about the universe is actually wrong. And that's part of science. Like, so every thought we have, if we have enough evidence, then it's possible it's wrong. And you have to accept that. And a lot of scientists are like stubborn. They're like, no, it won't change that drastically. Yeah, things change, but it's just a little bit, because they want to keep the world the way it is. But science says that anything we think of as true with enough evidence can change. And that's a big aspect of science. The other reason why there is a roadblock in science breaking through the paranormal is how the system is set up against scientists figuring out about the paranormal. So, like, I believe that scientific projects are expensive, like I said. Okay, it's like making a movie. A project may cost you $30 million. It may cost you $100 million. It may take you 6 months. A research project may take you 10 years. So in order to make breakthroughs in the paranormal, it's going to take a big investment. Okay, who is doing research right now? The government, private companies are doing research. Probably some individuals who are wealthy, they're independently doing research. Those 3 groups have probably made a lot of breakthroughs. But here's the thing. They don't have any obligation to share their information. There's no incentive to share it.
Exactly.
They spend all this money. You just spend all this money on this amazing discovery. Why would you want to share that? Like, it belongs to whoever came up with it. Whoever puts in the work in science, the data belongs to them. Now, there's only one group of scientists in the world that have an incentive to share that information. That's scientists like me. So I'm a research scientist right now. So I work for like a university. Well, I'm not currently working with a university. Let me back that up. So sometimes I work with universities and research organizations, which are not companies and they're not governmental. Okay. Now these people, like these scientists that work for like a university, museum, nonprofits, their whole deal is sharing information. It's called publish or perish. Like, they're the opposite of the other scientists. They have to share their information. Actually, that's how you get power. If you talk about egos, I like the egos in ufology a lot. To me, it's so funny. It's very silly. I would never have an ego in ufology, but I understand egos because egos happen in science. But I understand how egos work in science. Like, scientists have big egos, but the system is very clearly defined. The reason why you have a big ego and people respect your ego in science is because you've published all these big research studies. Like you've changed the world. Like you can count the amount of research papers you've published and the impact they've had on the world. And that's your ego. And it's anybody can see it, you know. But in ufology, it's like, why do you think you have an ego? Because you have more subscribers? What the hell? It doesn't mean anything. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, scientists, like those private scientists, they love publishing their research. Is what I'm saying. It feeds their ego. But here's a problem. This is why paranormal research never gets done. Okay, where does that money come from for those those public researchers? They have to ask for the money through research grants. Okay, and the way that research grants work is when you accept the money, you're also accepting what the project is going to be. Okay. So what I'm saying is you can't independently just say, someone give me money. Well, some people can, but the way it mostly works is you can't just tell the government or someone, give me money to study the UFOs. No, that's not how it works. The government tells you, hey, here's $5 million over 10 years, but you have to study this river and see what the pollution is. And scientists, they go, okay, that's in my expertise, and they do it and they become famous and they grow their ego. But that's the problem with the system. Nobody's offering, and on purpose, the government on purpose is not offering paranormal research money because they don't want those discoveries to be public.
Exactly. Why allow scientists to be tools of the people and do the deeds of the people? Yeah, that would be insane for them to allow scientists to take on some of the things that we're asking them to do. And that's why it's good, like you said, like yourself, and then I know other people who are doing like boots on the ground research, putting together their own funding, and any data that they do capture, they let the public vet it. They just leave it out for the public to vet, and that's how it should be. That's how we're gonna win. It's gonna be on this team. It's gonna be the scientists and people that are within the human and have humanity is their number one focus. But there's a line there, obviously, and there's people that are on that side, and that's the government powers to be. And unfortunately, the line, and we're on the other side. And it's sad to say, because you would hope that you, in a country like America, which is supposed to be this great country, the freest country, that you'd be in a situation where the country would do good by its citizens. And even in the best case scenario, we see that as not being the case, and even worse at times. So it just, it's what side are you on, unfortunately. And recently, the government has really drawn that line really thick in the sand, saying, hey, we're on this side, you guys are on that side. And that's just the way that it is. And I think that's sad, because I think that's not too far from losing a democracy and ending up in some dictatorship at some point, because that you're almost there. If they can tell you, don't ask me any more questions, and don't ask about where your money is going, and not care and say it in public, then you're not too far from some really bad situations. So, and that's kind of how I see it right now, and it's sad. And that's on the disclosure piece of that. It just makes you wonder how close a country would be to flipping that switch on their citizens. And I'm actually going to do a show about that, because I think it's really important. Yes, and we did have a question I wanted to get to from Carl, because he asked about what you were talking about earlier, when you were talking about giving the analogy of turning on the lights. So he says, what does the guest propose we do to get the military industrial complex to turn on the lights so we can see the walls?
Wow, that's a really good question. And that would be correct as well. Let's see. So I think the root of this question is, what can we do to get disclosure from the government? Okay, I really want to sit on that one, because my first instinct is it's impossible. But I don't want to leave it there, because that's depressing, and that can't be true. But I'm just saying, I'm just stream of consciousness. I'm thinking that's like a fish, a salmon in the river, trying to get people to stop fishing for it. Like, what can a salmon possibly do? What incentive does the salmon have? What power does it have? Because, like I said, the military industrial complex is it's like an entity. I saw in the comments, someone says that science sounds like an entity, because I was explaining it like a genie that grants you wishes. Well, the military industrial complex, it's a huge organism. It's a huge entity, and it runs on power and money. So that's what it likes. Okay, so I guess we would have to use the power. We have to use power and money. But do we have power and money? I don't know.
No.
What do you think? What are your thoughts? Because I'm kind of stumped on this one. I don't like that.
Well,
What do you
no,
think?
it's exactly what we were talking about. The military industrial complex is spending money on weapons and war. I've always said if we all sat at a table with them to make these sort of decisions, and it was asked if should we go to war, should we have these weapons, the answer would be no every time. So military industrial complex doesn't do for the people, they do for themselves in order to keep power. That will never change. Power is a powerful drug. Once you have it, you don't want to give it up. And especially when you're the most powerful country on the planet, and you are literally the power of the planet, and you are never going to want to give that up. There's never a way that is going to work out to where you're going to alleviate power in any other situation, which is why disclosure is so important now, because like I always say, besides an asteroid impact, besides a nuclear war, disclosure is the only other moment in time that can allow for a reset or a shift in the direction of what's going on. So to answer the question, they would have to be forced into complying. And I always say they should be listening to these shows, and they should comply and say, hey, maybe we should come out and say these things are happening so that we can still have some sort of semblance of trust with our citizens. Because I feel like if disclosure comes any other way besides through them, then how can you trust them after that point? That conversation can't be had. So I don't see them ever doing it unless they're forced into it, or unless somebody on the inside says, you know what, we're just going to whistleblow and we have to do this for humanity. That's the only way.
I thought of something for Carl here. Okay. Something. It's all okay. I was like, what is the root of the problem? I said money and power, but I was like, let me go deeper. Let me push it deeper. What is the root of money and power? And I was like, it's a mental illness called greed. How we need to defeat greed. That's really the root of the problem. Greed. It really is a mental illness. It's counterproductive and it's disastrous for ourselves. And I don't know, how do we defeat greed? Another question would be, why do we have the greed? Why is the greed there?
Because we apply monetary value to everything, and that's the reason why the dollar is a piece of paper. It's no different than monopoly money. It's only useful in the game that we play. So once the dollar is devalued, and it sounds crazy, right? Because to break down the whole financial structure, the whole economy would sound silly, but it literally is the key to making not applying value to things like that. We have, and that's why I say it's a big project, because you would have to change. Part of the conversation would be the whole the whole socio-economic way that this planet is run. It would have to be restructured and changed. And the only thing that can do it is a huge rock hitting this planet right now and shifting everything immediately, or nuclear war, all-out war. But in both of those scenarios, we probably don't live through that. And so the only thing that is logical that we actually are living through, and we have the chance of, shifting, is disclosure. That is it. That's why I'm doing this. And that's why I feel it's so important that we keep having these conversations.
That's great. No, and I applaud that. And I've seen a lot of hosts do that, and it's great. I think that's probably one of the most noble reasons why to get into the idea of broadcasting for paranormal, is the idea of like helping others, basically. Like there's another guy, Fred Roll from Subarctic Alaska Sasquatch, and he talks about he's really famous now. I interviewed him, but he's basically like, when I interviewed him, he was like, look, people need to know they're going to Alaska, that these Bigfoot are here and they're aggressive and nobody's telling them. And it's dangerous. Like, it's irresponsible. It's immoral. And so it's the same thing with you. It's like, it's immoral to keep this information. We want to help each other out.
Yes. And it's so much deeper we could go. Wild Trees. We're going to have to set up another time to get this going.
Definitely.
Right at the end of hour 2. So you have my information. Let's stay in touch. And if you could let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, right now I have a YouTube channel, so I post shorts. I interview people. I've been talking a lot about Godzilla lately because I had my friend who's a doctor, and we review it and talk about biology. And the Godzilla franchise deals with cryptids. It deals with ultra terrestrials, these monsters. It's got a lot of paranormal elements in it. Anyway, I'm also going to start a weekly UFO news show. So if you love all that, go to youtube.com and type in biologist wild trees, and that should come up. Also, I think if you go to Google and you just type in biologist wild trees, my YouTube channel will pop up.
And I actually have the link should already be in the description of this video. So if you guys go there, you should find the link as well. So yeah, Wild Trees, awesome talking to you, man. Totally glad we got to meet, and I feel like we could definitely have some great conversations. So I will be keeping in touch with you, having you back. I know you have your show going on over there. Make sure you guys go over there and support and subscribe as well. And yeah, let's link back up soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. You have a good rest of your night, man. Take care.
Take care.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to pause for the cause, jump into hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio's After Hours right after this.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Yes. Welcome back, you guys, for Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 3. After hour number 3. That means we got almost an end of the show. One more hour to go. We're going to take you home as we get ready to jump in with the guy who's our hour 3 guy. I think you guys all know him pretty well. None other than the man with the plan, Travis Mustos. We're going to get him up here with us in just a minute. But to all my space travelers, since you're already a space traveler, consider taking the next step in joining the club. That's right. You can join the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 buckaroonies by joining our Patreon. We would really appreciate if you did that. And also for anyone who is coming to Reno, can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to see you. And for those who will be tuning in live, I want to get you guys included. So let's try to make something happen. Let's try to maybe get some of you guys to come up on screen as a guest during the live stream show. I'm trying to work all those things out. So just be prepared. I don't know where we're going with it, but we'll see exactly what we can do. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring in our guy for hour 3, paranormal reporter Travis Mustos. And he said he has some good stuff for us this week. So let me go ahead and bring the guy on in, the guy we all love, right? And we'll see what's going on. Travis, how you been, man? What's going on? Nope, can't hear. Yeah, you're muted. Hold on, it says you're muted. You're back up, but I can't hear you. Nope. That's all right. We're going. Yeah. Hey, yeah, we hear it now. Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Greetings. Nonsense.
All right. Travis. So I talked to you earlier in the week. I know you said you had some explosive stuff for us this week. You got the new book. I know that, right? So what else do you got going on?
I said I was just gonna bring the best show I could bring. As usual. The new book, I've been working on it. It's nearing the end here. Like this is the final one that's gonna kind of wrap up this Mars Bug War series, and I've been getting tons of great reviews about it, and I'm happy that I'm happy to hear it, and the people that have reached out back to me about it and had good things to say, and but yeah, it's been the times that I've had under the stars have been peaceful, and the days have been like I said, spring is a beautiful time, and all the plants are starting to renew again, and all the leaves are coming back, and so it's like I said, this time has been an excellent one to be enjoyed at this moment.
Definitely. We have a lot of crazy stuff. So we were talking earlier today about and I just want to clear this one thing up because I was like, Travis will be here later, so I'll ask him. Have you heard, or would there ever be a scenario where you'd have potentially like any tribes out there that may be, I don't want to say portraying because I don't think that's really what it would be. But so we have someone who said that there had been people who had seen potentially something dressed up like Bigfoot, and maybe alluding to maybe it's Native Americans that would have done that. With the stories and the lore and the folklore, I felt like that maybe that it wouldn't be a thing, that there would ever be a situation where you'd have a native portraying a hoax, I guess. Is there a situation where maybe there's ceremonial garb or dress that might be worn that could be mistaken for something like that?
All right. So yeah, there are traditional like I should say, just like how a lot of the powwow dances, they all have their stories to them, right? Like all the different kind of dancers, right? The chicken dancers, the traditional dancers, the grass dancers, the jingle dress dancers. They all have a story, and they all have a part to play within that. I should say, the powwow ceremony in itself, right? But like sometimes during those ceremonies, there will be interesting traditional ones that take place, like horse dances and such as like and other ones that are telling tales like eagle dances. Like so, like you hear a lot of like the beautiful sounds and stuff of the eagles in those dances and yeah, it's very interesting and. But there's a very, very, very ancient one that most people don't know about, which isn't really. Hold on, give me a second. I gotta take care of that.
Yeah, because it's interesting question. I wish Travis was there in the moment to be able to kind of respond to it, because I don't know if I rephrased it right. But
so, like the one I was talking about was, it's the figure, the creature I don't want to talk about. When they do this dance, it's usually it's done like there's a lot of like shamans, like the shaman himself will do it, right, to show and portray the being, and usually the being is like, dressed up in like animal guts and things like that. And he's dancing around and moving around and telling the story, right, and the warriors and dance around too, right, dance around and fight it and stuff. But let me just say that like the natives though, we don't play around like that. Like we won't go out in the woods and go do that kind of thing because it's kind of like a forbidden thing. It could get very dangerous out here, right? Like a lot of hunters and people out here with firearms and things, and even hunting, we're very careful. Like we always wear all the proper gear, and we make sure, like and we let people know where we're at and stuff, and or where we are, or like where we're gonna go or things like.
Yeah, and I felt that, Travis, and that's why I said I was wanted to say that to ask you, because I figured that probably would be the case. Like, if you happen to be in the woods, maybe, and you come across a ceremony where that was taking place, then maybe you could perceive that if you didn't look closer as being potentially what was described. But yeah, I figure for the most part, because even with those, there are certain beings that natives won't even mention the name or say the name. So I figure if it's that serious on that level, then probably the other stuff probably wouldn't happen.
And like a lot of times too, at the powwows, there will be the medicine teepees, right? So a lot of those, I should say the people, the pipe carriers and stuff, the bundle carriers, they'll get the messages if those dances are to take place. So like say like the horse ceremony or horse dance ceremony or anything like that, like those, and then those things will take place or whatever, right? It's not like every powwow they'll have them happening. Like, you get what I mean? Like it's very rare. Or like say you have the bear dance too, another one. Like there's all these different ones. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for clearing that up. Just wanted to make sure that was tackled during the show. Yeah. So outside of that, so have you seen any or heard anything going on out there in the cryptid world? Anything that let's talk about. If you don't have something already, like the what do you call those things? Not the puck wedgie things, but we were talking about fairies, I believe. I don't remember who I was interviewing, and I wanted to know more information about the fairies and if the fairies were any relation to the little people that you talk about a lot.
Yeah. The fairies and like these beings, very like we're considering them. We consider them like the forest spirits, right? Like we'll get messages from them, or they'll come in and like I said, they'll perform like healings, or they'll show us where certain herbs or things are located, like in the woods, or where they've grown, to be found, things like that. But like I said, they are considered like the forest beings, forest spirits, and they're more on the positive side. Like they're not really like a terrifying thing. Like they're more or less kind of like guardians and guides, I should say. And for there's a lot of people that say like there's a lot of tales like where the fairies take people and stuff like that. But that, like for us, the little people are the ones that have taken people to their realm, or have brought them to the inner earth, and they have and they just manage to live amongst the societies out there. And to them, when they're in those societies or in those places, they spend a year there. And, you know, you come back and maybe 20 years has gone by. You know what I mean? So they just stay there. Like they'll just stay there because the time's just in that energy field is such a high frequency, so it moves a lot faster. And yeah. So there's that to consider.
Have you, you know, because you've been so successful capturing things in the sky. I mean, as many times, and I think maybe I would too, truthfully. But a weird thing, like it's weird, and I feel kind of guilty about it. But ever since I had my sighting, I still look up, but I don't look up as much. Like it's almost like I've been satisfied because what I caught was something that was tangible, something you could see on video, something I saw with the naked eye, something I saw disappear. So it wasn't like I saw a light one time and I'm not really sure what it was. And maybe that next time I'll be able to see what it is. It is weird because my first time catching something, I caught it so completely and the conditions were so perfect that there was no doubt left in my mind after this, right? So I kind of feel like maybe because of that, I'm not looking up as much anymore, because I think maybe I would still see the thing I think about all the time. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm in here right now. What if I'm missing a sighting right now? But it's almost like the satisfaction or the fulfillment that I got from having my sighting and having it be so definite and complete. It almost feels like I'm just not looking up anymore. And I'm thinking it's a bad thing, but I don't, since you have so many sightings, do you feel like that? Do you feel like you go times where you're not even thinking about looking up because you've already like had that confirmation for yourself?
I always take a chance to look up though, and and then I'm always because I'm always fascinated by just the the stars and the planets and everything else that's going on too, right? Just the sheer beauty of the galaxy itself, and to me that just always it gives me that moment and helps me I should say reconnect with universal being, and that's that's part of that, right? We're looking to the past and to all the thing into creation itself, right? And the universe itself, right? And it's you're in that connection is a recall back to your spirit and honoring that spirit and your existence now in the time. So I always take the time to take a look around and see where the the constellations are at, and and that's how I usually take a moment to when I'm scanning the sky, and then I start to notice other things. And the other night I had some flying east. There was one that was flying east, but by the time I had my phone and I was getting it all set up to do the shot of the video, right, it was already too far up into the atmosphere. It was disappearing out, and I was like, all right, well, that's them knowing I was gonna video that time, so they didn't want to let me capture it, I guess. So
yeah, and I understand that now coming from you. Yeah, you're gonna have based on your upbringing and your heritage, you're gonna have more reasons to look up, other than just to see a UFO. So yeah, just thinking about that makes total sense. That would be the case. So yeah, maybe I'm asking the wrong person on that, because yeah, you would normally naturally look up to the sky. It's just I don't know, and maybe I'll ask you guys out there, anybody out there, because it's weird, because it feels like I'm talking about this all the time. I'm pushing for disclosure all the time. I want people to capture data, and I want people to have their own experiences and see things so they can have their confirmation moment and understand, see the awe that you're in when you have one of these. And it's just that it kind of makes me, because I'm pushing for this, it kind of makes me feel in the back of my mind, even though it's not intentional, that I'm not looking up as much anymore because of what I've already seen. And I probably missed something even more, compelling and more epic than what I caught. And that's kind of the fear that I have. But I wonder if that's like a thing within ufology. Like once you have that definite experience, like it kind of, you just find yourself not really like the not really the passion, but just the necessity to try to catch something. I wonder if that kind of diminishes some. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but yeah.
I've had some people that kind of are like, well, I'm starting now that I've seen the one, now I'm always seeing them now. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny. Like it's like some people have returned back to me saying that, right? Like, oh, now I'm seeing, like I seen one in the early morning and it just lit up like a flare and it looked really beautiful and then it just disappeared. It was gone, just like but it was broad daylight, like the sun was rising and it was in the sky. I was like, oh, you should have videoed it, but they weren't sure what they were looking at first, right? You know what I mean? But so there's been a few of those spotted around lately. If you want to talk a little bit about that, or if it could be, I classify that could be one of the sky spirits, or one of the Kokosa Kaskikis, and if anything, it could be that higher technology, that extra level of dimensional reality that they're able to slip into, right, through that light, and just, or if it's blasting off into space, right? That's the other part. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. And it's just, we were talking to the guest earlier today, Wild Trees, and just getting some other perspectives on this. And I always, the exercise that I do after having a conversation, like we have tonight, is sitting down and processing what the theories that we went through, because he brought up some good perspectives that I hadn't initially looked at, and it just kind of makes you think more about what it is. We talked about the whole scale of microbiology and atoms and the smallest of smallest life forms in comparison to us, and how we're so large in their world. It's pretty much unfathomable. They probably aren't even aware of our totality. And then taking that same aspect and then looking at it like, we look out into the cosmos and we feel just as small as that microorganism when it comes to the whole scale of everything that's out there. And then the question on maybe, are we insignificant really on the grand scale, even though we know we're special within us? But on the grand scale, those people that are on the far end of this, do they look at us like, oh, you're just a microorganism? We're kind of, you're not really that important. You're just a microorganism.
Well, yeah, the perspective has always been for us is that it's all connected, even to the far reaches out there, and even for them, it'd be still part of that connection too. Yeah, so like for us, even like we consider all that to be like a respect, and and paying that honor to, right? And that's like when we say that all relations, all my relations, that's it goes across the whole universe. That means like that means all of everything, my relations to this energy of this of the existence, and everything in the relation back, right? And it's like I said, it's connection, and it rings out through the universe, and so it would still be for them too.
It's going to be interesting for me to see. And one thing I didn't bring up with the guests that I wanted to because I've thought about all these things, and so when you think about that scale, and the thing that had me questioning if we were in the same situation as some sort of microorganism on the grand scale was the fact that space is being infinite. And I've talked about that before, because that's something we can't wrap our mind around. As far as we understand, it's infinite. But what if it isn't infinite? What if there is an end to it? It's just so on the larger scale that we're unable to even fathom what the end is, or what we're perceiving as distance to the end of whatever space is. And it's like, so if we're looking at the microorganism aspect and using that analogy, then does that mean that space is not infinite then? And at some point down the line, we'll find out that we're within some sort of ecosystem which could be something comparable to like a human body, which is one thing I like to point to, because you have all these processes and things that go on within your body. You have all these cells and microorganisms that are traveling throughout your body. Some of them live in your hand, and some of them live on your face, and some of them, they're all over the place. So is that in fact a small scale example of what a universe is? You know what I mean? Like, is this totality of what we're looking at? Are we literally potentially on the inside of some living thing? It's just wild. It can get wild, and I'm not saying that that's what it is. It's just a thought that I have, because when you start to talk about space being infinite, and then that's the period. Space is infinite, period. It's like, well, okay, when you start talking about it and we start applying it to other theories and scenarios, then the question comes to, at one point during that talk, if we in fact are like inside of some larger thing that we don't understand. What do you think? But have you ever thought about that? Or what do you even think about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with spirituality and like how, so it's like, our universe, our primordial universe, and its existence, and then we're surrounded by this astral void that, is balanced by these two other higher and lower dimensional realms. And like how our spirit is, once we're in that, we could see all the different versions of this primordial universe, and pick out exactly what times and things like that, and see all these different parts of the existence, right? And that's that other level, so for me, that's one thing that I've always considered. And then like what you're saying is like how it just keeps like there's layers to it, and that's always been a thing that I've looked at through the teachings. And they always said that the universe was webbed by a spider, and I was like, okay. It's like, when we look at a spider web, that, is like looking at the universe is all connected together. And that made sense to me. I was like, okay. And it is kind of like that, it is all kind of like webbed together and throughout the space and existence, and all the different universes and galaxies that exist, and, hundreds and thousands of galaxies that exist in each universe out there is, it's definitely happening all around.
I would love to know. I mean, I would love, and I know we'll never. These are the answers to these sorts of questions. I know we'll never find out in our lifetime. But it's like, like it. But saying that, okay, we'll never find out in our lifetime, because it seems like if we left it to our own devices to discover and explore and uncover answers as we go, then it'd probably take us 100,000 years of being spacefaring to probably get the answer to that. But then it makes me wonder, then, you know what I mean? Because it is obviously something that shouldn't be answerable within our lifetime. But when you look at being on the cusp of disclosure, does that change things? Because the moment that we're able to interact with these things, then that means we get to ask questions. And then, we're going to have a top list of questions, and some of these are going to be on the list, even this, what we're talking about now. So it's theoretically, if they have the answers to these things, we could have the answers within our lifetime. So it's like, it's both sides of the spectrum, like, you know what I mean? Because disclosure, depending on how long it takes for them to make themselves just known in public, and we get everybody else on board to understand where we're at, by the time that happens, it could happen within our lifetime. But if we leave it up to our own devices, then it'll be another 150,000 years before we're able to answer these sorts of questions. But it's just interesting, because we're in a moment where the reality, and we'll just use quotes for that, the reality is it'll probably take us that long to get there, to get the answer. But theoretically, we could wake up tomorrow and be in a disclosure moment where we start getting the answers immediately. So it's weird because they're just so opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to some a question that's that important.
Yeah, there will be some, like I said, there has to be like a few events that will happen for us. Like I said, we'll discover some more evidence of things out there in the far reaches of the galaxies, and that will, bring up the questions about our existence and where we play a part in all this in the universes, and how we're going to go about that in the future. And like I said, a few other events that will happen in terms of just like our evolution as humanity on this planet. And but I have high hope for that, and that's like I said, it's all necessary part of it, because then after we do all those, then like I said, most of the aliens and things, and they'll all become part of our day-to-day life, and part of that technology and that accelerated level of advancement. When we make those connections and exchanges with the ETs out there, like I said, they have a few things waiting for us, right? And just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So it might be within our lifetime.
That's what I say. It's just so weird, because literally it's to have both of those things be plausible, both ends of the spectrum be something that's plausible, is just bananas, because it keeps you motivated. Because I think if the answer was period, we wouldn't find out within this lifetime, period, whether it was through government disclosure, which obviously won't happen, or through just us getting the answers, that it wouldn't happen in our lifetime, and it was something we understood wouldn't happen in our lifetime. I wonder, would the fight be as strong as it is? And it's like, you could have missed the boat, like somebody who was born, and even people within ufology who rest in peace, like Stanton Freeman and some of the ones that have passed recently, who had done this their whole lives trying to get to that point, and they got close, but it didn't happen within their lifetime. But it's right on the outside of that, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's got to be it's got to hurt. It's got to be a hurtful feeling to be at the end of your life, and then have fought for these answers, or researched and used so much time to kind of dig through this and try to facilitate disclosure, and then just not getting it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's got to be tough. And I think, for myself, I'm sitting here right now, 30 years from now, if I'm sitting on a deathbed, and we don't have disclosure, it makes me think about what I would think about. You know what I mean? Like, did I do enough? Because is there something we could have done different? And that's kind of the thing that I deal with every day. Like, when it, because I'm always thinking about this, because I think this is something that is so important to our descendants, that like, we're the stars of the moment, right? And I think that they would be so grateful and happy when they look back on this moment of like the footwork that we're doing to trying to get us there. But I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I would, just the fact that we're able to share some of these videos and the photos and things and such. And then also too, the time that we got to share, like in Spaced Out Radio itself, for having all the wonderful guests and legends on over the years, right? And I feel like everybody has been a part of the ufology world and shared their information and brought it forward, or the whistleblowers and stuff, like it was all necessary part for it, right? Like I feel like that's part of it, right? That we have to acknowledge it for ourselves and bring it out for the folks out there, and allow them to have that knowledge at least in their life. And I should say that, like I'm talking about the existence of extraterrestrials and that connection for that, right? Because it's part of that evolution of our human existence and our being in the universe, right? And so I feel like those people too, that like I said, that did that, and I'm sure they'd feel just as happy on the other side, knowing that their information helped pave the way for that, and make it happen, and that's how I feel about it anyway. Like, looking at it all, and having these moments in time to share with the folks out there some of these things and tales, and And like I said, some of these captures that I've gotten over the years, right? You know, so so thank you guys for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it gets deep. But my feeling is that like if you can't have these kind of conversations, and that's why I changed the thumbnail, because the thumbnails I had, it just said like special guest and whoever the guest was, and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, well, this really, this for me is more of a conversation with people. Like I feel like it's that everything that we're doing is actually a conversation. So technically, yeah, it's an interview. Yeah, asking questions and doing interview type stuff. But the investment that I have into that conversation, I mean, into the interview is more of a conversation and trying really to spitball and brainstorm through, the process. And I just feel like a lot of other, I really feel like on this subject, a lot of other people in this field should be kind of not necessarily doing what I'm doing, but just being more emotionally invested in what's going on, because this should be something that kind of comes from your heart and kind of affects you on an emotional level because of how important the moment is, and how how important how lucky you are to be in the moment, to be able to do something about it, and then actually doing just the power behind that. So I just feel like this should always come from the heart, and like it should always feel like we're moving forward when we have these conversations. So hopefully that's what's going on here. I don't know how you feel, Travis.
Yeah, it definitely reaches a wider audience, and yeah, I feel like the people that have have watched the episodes have come across some pretty interesting information, and it's nice for them, right? It's nice to live for all those out there, and for the people too in the ufology world to bring forward the new parts of the investigations, and yeah, so I think it is very much a necessary thing that's going on here, and yeah, it is helping a lot, like I should say, with a lot of the ufology world and everyone out there involved, and yeah, I think it's a good thing. I personally.
Look, I had this soundbite that I picked up, and this is how I want. This is my vision, right? So, say it's 100 years down the line. Disclosure happened in 2026. So now it's 2126, and everyone is benefiting from disclosure that we went through, and it's a whole new world, and every humanity's ascended, and we've been enlightened and unlocked. So 100 years down the line, when they sit down and they think about the work that we did, and that we were doing now in 2024, I had this soundbite, and this is really, I want to figure out how to implement this, but I think it says it all. So I'll play this real quick. It says,
"Please and thank you for pushing for disclosure, and thanks for caring about our future."
And I think that's powerful, right? Because I think that's what a child would say if they understood the gravity of the moment that we had gone through, and how things could have went this way instead of that way, right? And we're in this moment, and we shifted in a way that benefits humanity going forward, how grateful and thankful they would be for decisions that were being made today in 2024. And I just feel like the appreciation would be there, and I kind of just I'm just feel that way. I don't know if that would be the case, but I would hope that humanity would be grateful for all of the conversations and hours that we've all spent in trying to move the needle. So I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I get what you're going with it. Yeah, like the future is like saying thank you for that. Like that's that's pretty, that's a good way of looking at that. Yeah, for sure. That few of these shows I've mentioned it, like thanks for watching now, and also for those tuning in the future watching this, right? Like it's a acknowledgement of that, and yeah, it's so, I honestly feel like it is playing a big part, because a lot of people, like I said, that are tuning in will be like, hey, this is what so and so was talking about, on Spaced Out Radio a couple of years ago, and that'll be when those times are happening, right? And yeah, so that's that's where I look at that.
All right, Travis, go ahead and let everybody know about the new book, and kind of talk about that, and then right here in about 4 minutes we'll wrap it up here.
All right. Yeah. No. Okay. So the third book I'm writing currently, and it's the final book of the Mars Bug War series. The first two books are available online on Amazon. If you guys want to support me, you can go check them out on Amazon. The Mars Bug War is just. Oh, the Mars Bug. If you type them in, here's the first one there. You can see the giant mech unit and some of the soldiers there, and then you also see more of the action going on here in the background, and yeah. So like I said, the books are available. They're like I said, find them on Amazon, and thanks for supporting me. If you do manage to pick them up, the third one's coming soon. So by the time next week I'm on here, well, I'll have another book up for sale again, and that's the final one. And Rob's going to be in this one. I put a character named Rob in there for him. So
that's what's up, man. That's why I love it, man. You pumping these things out, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Written form. When we had Filth on here and we talked about art and how art, just being able to tell a story through art and just being able to tell a story through words. And this, words can last a test of time. Somebody give example, a Bible, right? So a Bible is a book, an old book from way back in the day that made it to current time and was handed over and over, right? Told some great stories. So, there's all sorts of literature that gets uncovered. And I think that's one of those things in art, physical art. These are things that could be dug up one day, if something happened where there was a reset on the current civilization that we live in, and they dig it up 1,000 years in this Mars Bug Wars by Travis Moostus. The collection, right? The whole collection, right? And that's possible. This is what happens, right? We dig up stuff all the time, and it's old literature, it's old artwork, and we try to understand what the story that was being told was, and it's I can appreciate it. So with that being said, Travis, man, we love having you here. The audio wasn't bad, really. It was a little staticky, but we'll talk again about that. And outside of that, man, you have a great rest of your day. It's been fun hanging with you again, and let's do it again next week.
Right on, man. You take care. Take care, everybody out there. See you around. And that's all for now. Examaga. I'll see you guys when I see you.
Peace out, man. Talk to you soon. All right, guys. Travis Moostus in the building. Always got something good going on with Travis, man. It's great energy, great spirit. And it's doing something to make a difference. He's writing books, depicting experiences and things like that. It's always appreciated. Anything that anyone can do to help the conversation and move the needle forward is needed and appreciated. You go travel across seas. We got overseas people in the audience, and you're in a room with someone that doesn't tune into this stuff. Maybe sit down and point them in the direction of a great conversation that we had, something that might open their eyes, or at least plant a seed for them to think about, and something that'll blossom later on down the line. That might be fun. Let me go ahead and go through the chat. We got 10 minutes here. Countdown 10 minutes, and let me just see what everybody's saying here. CS saying thanks, Rob and Travis. Thank you so much for coming in, CS, and we do appreciate it. Les Diaz says, is this show over? Well, it's not over yet. it's not over yet. We'll sit here and talk for a couple of minutes before we go ahead and get ready to shut it down, play the outro, all that good stuff. Thank our super chatters, and thank you, each and every one of you out there who definitely tuned in tonight. Oh, and it's going to be an awesome show tomorrow. So tomorrow, let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, we have Swamp Dweller in the building. Swamp Dweller, the Swamp Dweller, is in the building tomorrow night. So you guys make sure that you are here, and it should be pretty awesome. As you know, Swamp Dweller was the person. I want to say it was before Steve Stockton, right? Was it Swamp Dweller? I'm pretty sure it was. You guys can correct me. You guys are historians out there, SOR historians. Was Swamp Dweller before Steve Stockton? I think it was. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. It says yep. So yeah, that should be interesting. There should be some great stories there. I've always heard the names, always been interested in speaking to Swamp Dwellers. So that's going to be something that happens tomorrow, and then we'll have our hour 3 person, Jax. She should be coming through tomorrow night and giving us another report. So it should be awesome. We should be ending the week off awesome. And then let me give you the itinerary for next week. That's actually what we could do here. So I know Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Dave plans to do a live show. And then obviously Wednesday is when they're preparing, or he's preparing to leave from out there to come to Nevada. So Thursday, it looks like will be an archive show, but don't worry, I'll pick a good one, and it'll be definitely a awesome viewing. So we'll have a archive show on Thursday. Then we'll have the live show on Friday, which will be 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific. 1,000 guests are going to be there, special guests. So no telling who's going to jump on the live stream. But it'll essentially be me, myself, and Dave. Me, Jessica, and Dave hosting a 3-hour show with a lot of different special guests. Saturday, it looks like we'll have an archive show because we'll still be in Reno. Sunday as well. And then we should be back to business on Monday. You'll know if things change because I will be the first to, or I'm sure Dave will. He'll probably be the last person that you guys speak to, so he'll let you know. Yeah, definitely. And so we had some we're working out some stuff, right? Because we're transitioning this show into radio, right? So we're gonna have bumpers before the break. We played with some today, some that we'll end up putting into place. So you'll see this show will be changing a little bit to fit for radio. So you'll start noticing that happening coming soon. And let me see. I want to know if you guys can hear this. Tell me if you can hear this.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Okay, you guys were able to hear that just fine? Okay. Just wanted to make sure because when we were having those audio issues last week, some of these weren't working. So I'm glad to hear. Okay, great. I'm glad that you guys like it. So yeah, we're going radio. Obviously Dave's already radio. We were setting this show up for that, and so now we're gonna have it on a timed sort of program, the same as Dave's. So that may mean that we'll be doing extra breaks, which would be cool. It doesn't really bother me either way. Top of the hour is fine for me, but we may be doing essentially break wise at the 30-minute mark, at the hour mark for the 3 hours. So we'll see. We will see. So we got 5 minutes here. Let me go ahead and start looking into the super chatters. I know we had a few tonight. We had Black Dragon saying, let's party with bacon. Appreciate you showing your love, Black Dragon. Aloha Dave as well. This is really, really, really interesting discussion tonight. Love it. Glad you loved it, Aloha Dave. I know you get into those deep convos. We've had those over at the Social Dig, which the Social Dig shows will be coming back pretty soon. As soon as I can get, we're tackling the radio part of this, which should be hopefully situated before, by the first show that we do after the Reno trip. So, I don't know. So hopefully within 2 weeks. I really want to do it sooner than that. I missed my show. You know what I mean? It's my show on my channel, my personal show, The Social Dig, and the type of stuff that we kick over there. You can be a little more risque. I wouldn't take a lot of the chances I take over here, obviously, because this is Dave's ship, and I don't want to do anything like that. So yeah, Social Dig, I'm gonna get back online. I'm gonna get it pumping again though, because I got a lot of ideas, and I just have to put the content together. When I do my shows over there, I do a lot of slides and a lot of research behind what it is that we're talking about. So it takes a lot of work, especially when you're already doing the show. So just so you guys know, I know who don't like, I don't like goodbyes either, Mary Palmer. It's never a goodbye, right? It's until next time is kind of what we'll do. So we'll say until next time. I do appreciate everybody coming on out. But I'm not going to, we got like 2 minutes here. So I'll let you guys say good, sweet nothings to each other. While I answer CS's question. Says, what time are your shows? Normally my shows, the normal shows that I do there on the channel, which is what I'm going back to, are the 5 p.m. Pacific shows. It's usually about a 2-hour show from 5 to 7 on a Wednesday. We did Scientology there, about a month or so ago. We're about 2 episodes into the new season. I have a full season 1 over there, which about 50 shows from the last season. Bunch of great topics, a lot of tough topics too. A lot of people don't like having the tough conversations, but you go to the Social Dig and you will find that. Let me put that in the chat, actually. I might as well, since we got a minute left. That is the link right there. So if you guys hadn't subscribed at this point, consider going over there, hitting the subscribe button. And I have archives over there as well. Some really good ones. Like I said, some really tough conversations. Capitalism. Does capitalism translate into spacefaring humans? I catalog my own sighting over there compared with other MUFON sightings. Top secret government, right? A lot of people think the government could never keep a secret like UFOs because of other examples. I did a show that kind of disproves that. So a lot of great stuff over there. YouTube.com/@MrRobG. Definitely make sure you guys take the time and go check that out. It's a different vibe than what we do here, but it's just as informative and great. A lot of you are already there, so I do appreciate you guys. With that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to wrap this thing up here as we are at the 11 o'clock hour. So I want to play the little last promo before we go to commercial. Outside of that, definitely appreciate you guys all coming in. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we always do what we do best, and that is owning the night, and we will continue to do that. So until then, see you guys in a minute.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After